If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 21, Practical Training. After parting ways with Mitsurai Kenroji, Aoki returned to the dojo, only to be stopped by Keisuke Akiyama, one of his senior brothers. Junior brother Aomura, Keisuke began, his tone insistent, we have practical training tomorrow. You should join us. Aoki shook his head. I don't think I will. Sparring with regular people seemed pointless. It wouldn't be fair to them, and it wouldn't benefit him either. Keisuke, thinking Aoki was concerned about the sunlight, quickly reassured him. Don't worry, junior brother. The training will be held in a shaded room. Aoki noticed the weariness and slight pleading in Keisuke's eyes. After a moment's thought, he nodded. All right, I'll join. Keisuke's relief was palpable. Thank you. I knew I could count on you. Aoki appreciated Keisuke's support. Without him, Aoki might never have delved into martial arts or developed his own fighting system so quickly. Keisuke had always looked out for him, and a small request like this deserved to be honored, both out of gratitude and respect. Number the day of training. The dojo was bustling the next day. Students gathered in small groups, chatting excitedly about the upcoming practical training. Kengo Mizuno, the dojo master, entered the room with Keisuke Akiyama. His appearance had changed dramatically since Aoki last saw him. He looked much older, his hair now white and his face showing signs of recent struggles. Today, we'll focus on actual combat training, Mizuno announced without preamble. Aoki turned to watch as Mizuno began to organize the students into pairs for their sparring matches. Aomura and Shigeyoshi Fujita. Hearing his name, Aoki looked at the muscular young man standing at the front of the training room. Shigeyoshi Fujita was known as a top student, rumored to be among the strongest in the dojo's advanced class. Their eyes met, and Fujita grinned, his gaze filled with aggression and confidence. Your first time in combat training and you get paired with one of the best. Someone whispered nearby. Aoki sighed, feeling indifferent. Fujita, surrounded by his friends, seemed much more animated. Aomura? Isn't he the new guy? Has he even learned the basics? One student asked. Fujita's going to have an easy win, another chimed in. Crossing his arms, Fujita remarked coolly, I'd rather fight someone skilled. There's no thrill in beating up a rookie. Don't underestimate him. The teacher wouldn't pair you without a reason. He's got a decent physique at least, one of his friends suggested. What reason? I just want to teach him a lesson. That hat he always wears is annoying, Fujita scoffed. Their banter was interrupted by a plump young man with a sly grin. Place your bets. How long will Fujita take to finish the rookie? 5 minutes? 3? Or just 1? The room buzzed with excitement. 3 minutes, tops. One student predicted. Are you kidding? He'll knock him out in a minute flat. Another countered. Ignoring the commotion, Fujita slapped a bill into the plump young man's hand. 30 seconds, he declared confidently. Wow, betting on yourself, the plump young man said, pocketing the money with a grin. Keisuke Akiyama approached Kengo Mizuno with concern. Teacher, isn't it too harsh to pit Aomura against Fujita for his first sparring match? He lacks combat experience. Mizuno remained resolute. A warrior's true strength is revealed against strong opponents. If Aomura is as capable as you suggest, he can handle Fujita, regardless of his experience. Realizing there was no changing Mizuno's decision, Keisuke could only hope that Aomura's performance would meet the dojo master's expectations and perhaps bring a spark of life back to his weary teacher. Number the match begins. The training sessions moved swiftly, with each match decided in minutes. The next match, Aomura vs Shigeyoshi Fujita. Keisuke called out. Aoki stepped into the ring, removing his hat and revealing his striking features. A murmur of surprise spread through the room. Is that really Aomura? I thought he wore that hat because he was hiding something. Turns out, he's just incredibly handsome. Shigeyoshi Fujita's eyes narrowed with a flicker of jealousy. Rookie, you better protect your pretty face. I like smashing faces. Aoki smiled calmly. Good luck with that. Fujita felt a surge of anger at Aoki's nonchalant response. Begin. Keisuke Akiyama's voice rang out. Fujita lunged forward, his fist aiming straight for Aoki's face like a spear. Aoki sidestepped effortlessly, closing the distance between them in an instant. Aoki Ryu, storm. In a blur of motion, Aoki's entire body became a whirlwind of attacks, fists, elbows, knees, and feet moving with relentless precision and speed. In less than 3 seconds, the storm ended, and Aoki stepped back. Shigeyoshi Fujita crumpled to the ground, unconscious. The dojo fell silent, the air thick with disbelief. "Teacher, Brother Keisuke, I have some matters to attend to. Please excuse me," Aoki said, retrieving his hat and walking out of the training room. It took a moment for everyone to process what had just occurred. Keisuke Akiyama rushed to Fujita's side, checking his condition. With a sigh of relief, he announced, "He's still alive." The ferocity of Aomura's attacks had been staggering, even terrifying to watch. Keisuke had been genuinely worried that Fujita might not survive the onslaught. The training hall erupted with astonished whispers. "What just happened?" I blinked, and Fujita was down. "That was insane. Just watching it made me hold my breath." "What kind of technique was that? Was it Aoki style? I've never seen anything like it." "You idiot! That's not Aoki style." "No, you're the idiot. That was definitely Aoki style. You just can't recognize it because you're not good enough." Kengo Mizuno watched, stunned. The movements were unmistakably rooted in the Aoki style, but they carried a raw, untamed power that had never been taught in his dojo. Fujita's friends were left speechless. The rookie they expected to crush had revealed himself as a formidable force, like a predator among prey. The plump young man counted his winnings with a bewildered look. Fujita had lost the match and his bet, and now he wondered if Fujita would still want the money. Knowing the outcome, would he feel happy or regretful? As the training room buzzed with excitement and disbelief, Aoki's display of power left an indelible impression on everyone who witnessed it. Chapter 22. Before leaving. For Aoki, the combat training was a minor distraction. If it weren't for Keisuke Akiyama, he wouldn't have participated at all. As he stepped outside the dojo, he heard that someone was looking for him. When he reached the entrance, he saw a girl with cherry-colored pigtails peeking inside. "Miss Kenroji, what brings you here?" Aoki asked, curious. Kenroji Mitsurai's face lit up when she saw him. She hurried over, holding up a small box. "Mr. Aomura, I brought some sakura mochi. Let's enjoy them together." Aoki considered her offer. "Let's go to my room then," he suggested, knowing he could find an excuse to avoid eating the cakes. In Aoki's room, Kenroji Mitsurai eagerly picked up a piece of sakura mochi. She took a small bite, savoring the delicate blend of cherry blossom, glutinous rice, and sweet bean paste. With a contented sigh, she finished the mochi and sipped some tea, watching Aoki. Aoki, meanwhile, practiced the basic movements of Aoki style, his focus intense. Practicing indoors required precise control of his strength, which helped him refine his technique and understand the nuances of Aoki style from different perspectives. When he paused, Mitsurai asked, "Mr. Aomura, is this kind of martial arts how you get stronger?" Aoki shook his head. "Martial arts can make you stronger, but they can't surpass your physical limits," he explained. "Then how do you go beyond those limits?" Mitsurai's cheeks puffed as she took another bite of mochi. "The breathing technique," Aoki replied, sitting down and pouring himself a glass of sake. "Only through the breathing technique can one truly become powerful." "Where can I learn this breathing technique?" Mitsurai asked, her curiosity piqued. "It's taught by the Demon Slayer Corps," Aoki said. "Demon Slayer Corps? Are they as strong as you, Mr. Aomura?" Mitsurai's eyes widened in awe. Aoki considered the question thoughtfully. "Most aren't as strong as me, but a few might be stronger," he admitted, thinking that his current strength was comparable to the lower ranks of the 12 Kizuki. Anyone below the rank of Hashira would struggle against him. After Kenroji Mitsurai left, Keisuke Akiyama approached Aoki with a mix of admiration and concern. "Junior brother, your performance in today's training was incredible." Aoki nodded. "Thank you, senior brother. But I need to tell you something. I won't be attending any more classes." "Why not?" Keisuke was taken aback. "I'm ready to move on," Aoki said simply. He had stopped at the dojo to refine his combat system, and now that he had achieved his goal, it was time to leave. Keisuke looked shocked. "Is there something wrong with the dojo?" No, nothing like that, Aoki reassured him. I was just passing through, and it's time for me to go. Keisuke still seemed reluctant to let him go. But you haven't learned our advanced techniques yet. For me, the basics are enough, Aoki said. The advanced techniques were designed for humans and held no real value for him. Hearing the firmness in Aoki's voice, Keisuke finally conceded. All right, junior brother. I won't stop you. Keisuke Akiyama went to see his master, Kengo Mizuno, and before he could speak, Mizuno said, he refused, didn't he? How did you know, master? Keisuke asked, surprised. I didn't even get the chance to ask him. Keisuke explained their conversation, and Mizuno's expression grew thoughtful. From his moves today, it's clear that Aomura has mastered the Aoki style and developed his own path. He doesn't need to learn more from us. Keisuke was stunned. You mean he's already a master? Mizuno nodded. Yes. For a genius like Aomura, learning fixed techniques could limit his growth. Even though he has found his own way, he will always be a part of the Aoki style. Seeing that his master's spirit wasn't broken by Aoki's departure, Keisuke felt reassured. However, with Aoki leaving, he needed to find other ways to invigorate the dojo and his master's waning energy. As night fell, Aoki quietly left the dojo, moving across the rooftops like a shadow. He had a few days left to make a final effort to find the demon. If he failed, he would have to give up and perhaps inform the Demon Slayer Corps about the situation here. After a fruitless night of searching, Aoki sat cross-legged on the eaves of a building, deep in thought. Finding the demon was proving more difficult than he had anticipated. With dawn approaching, he decided on another task, finding someone to borrow money from. These days, he had been doing just that, but without much success. The wealthy he targeted appeared squeaky clean on the surface, making it hard to justify taking their money. Reflecting on the day's events, he remembered his sparring match with Shigeyoshi Fujita and the Fujita family's wealth. I recall there's a Fujita family in the city, running a steel company with considerable financial clout and a good reputation, Aoki mused. Today's lucky draw. His previous targets were mostly those with bad reputations. But the Fujita family's seemingly pristine image didn't fool him. A large, influential family often hid many secrets. Disappearing into the night, Aoki headed towards the Fujita estate. Fujita Manor was a fortress of opulence, with bright lights, numerous buildings, and guards posted at every corner. It was as secure as a fortress, impervious to intruders. But tonight, an uninvited guest had arrived. Standing on the roof of a 3-story building, Aoki surveyed the estate. Impressive, he murmured. The scale of the manor confirmed the Fujita family's wealth. However, the sprawling estate presented a challenge: where to start searching. Important rooms were either guarded or tightly locked, but Aoki knew that even a small gap was enough for him to slip through. On his third search, he finally found something promising. Aoki leaned against the wall, holding a letter in his hand, his eyes on the enormous bed in front of him. The bed's occupant was a rotund man surrounded by 3 young women, each from a different ethnicity: a Japanese girl, a blonde white girl, and a dark-skinned girl with curly hair. Learning foreign languages, hey? Quite the connoisseur, Aoki remarked silently. He read the letter again. It was a simple invitation for tea from someone named Muto, suggesting a meeting at an art museum called Yejisha. An art museum for tea? Aoki mused. It seemed unusual, but perhaps it was a coded message. Placing the letter back, he glanced at the sleeping man before vanishing into the night. The dojo's courtyard was quiet as Aoki reflected on his next steps. His time at the dojo had come to an end, and now he faced the uncertainty of his mission against the demons. But for now, his mind was clear. He would find the Fujita family's secrets, take what he needed, and continue his journey. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, Aoki's silhouette melded into the shadows, ready for whatever lay ahead. Chapter 23, Conspiracy. Yehime Society, nestled in the heart of downtown, was an imposing establishment. Its sprawling grounds were adorned with elegant and exquisitely detailed buildings, each structure a testament to architectural finesse. The aura of refined artistry was palpable, suggesting that this wasn't merely an ordinary gallery. The sheer opulence and the air of secrecy that seemed to hang over it made Aoki suspect there was more than met the eye. Aoki, always vigilant and curious, paused to observe the society from a distance. Within moments, 2 men emerged, moving with purpose towards him. Their expressions were cold and unyielding as they positioned themselves to block his view. "This is private property. No loitering allowed." One of them barked. "Leave immediately, or we will take action." The other added, his tone equally menacing. Aoki, assessing the situation, decided it wasn't wise to push back. He cast a lingering glance at the men before turning on his heel and walking away. Their heightened security only deepened his intrigue. Clearly, this was no ordinary art gallery. But it was broad daylight, and any further attempt to uncover the truth would have to wait. He planned to return under the cover of night when stealth was on his side. Leaving the Yehime society behind, Aoki didn't return to the dojo. Instead, he found a secluded spot outside the city, away from prying eyes, where he could train uninterrupted. Even in his absence, his influence permeated the dojo. A day later, students were still abuzz, discussing the remarkable technique Aoki had demonstrated the storm. Gathered in small groups, the students relived the spectacle. "I tried to replicate that move at home," one student confessed. "But I just ended up tangling my arms and legs together." "It's not surprising," another chimed in. "I asked one of the senior students, and he said that move requires exceptional coordination and a deep understanding of Aoki style. It's not something just anyone can pick up." "That move is incredible," a third student exclaimed. "It's my dream to master it one day." Their conversation halted abruptly as Fujita Shigeyoshi approached. His face was a mask of barely contained fury, and the air around him seemed to crackle with his seething anger. Once he was out of earshot, the students exchanged uneasy glances. "I thought he'd be too embarrassed to show his face here again," one muttered. "Give him a break," another replied. "It was just a training match." "But did you hear about the bet he made? He wagered that the fight would be over in under 30 seconds and won a lot of money. But when he collected his winnings, he looked like he'd just eaten something sour." "Wow!" Fujita Shigeyoshi, simmering with rage, vented his frustration on a training dummy. Each punch landed with a force that echoed through the dojo, a physical manifestation of his humiliation and anger. Everywhere he went, he was met with whispers and sidelong glances. The dojo, once a place of camaraderie, had become a crucible of embarrassment for him. He couldn't escape the mocking eyes and murmurs about his devastating defeat. The memory of Aomura's victory was a relentless, stinging slap to his pride. His friends stood nearby, awkward and silent, their discomfort evident. Fujita had boasted too much and lost too badly. Now, every word he spoke seemed to mock his earlier confidence. A young man with a long face, sensing an opportunity to escalate matters, spoke up. "Shigeyoshi, do you want to get back at him?" Shigeyoshi's eyes narrowed as he responded. "And how do you suggest we do that? Jump him with a club? Gang up on him?" It was clear that he had already considered these crude methods. The long-faced youth smirked, leaning in as if to share a secret. "That's too straightforward. We need to do it in a way that everyone sees. Think about it, there's that old legend about demons who prey on people. We can spread a rumor that Aomura is one of those demons." Shigeyoshi frowned, skepticism edged on his face. "But who's going to believe that?" "Leave that to me," the young man said with a sly grin. "Remember Aomura's eyes? We can say they're the mark of a demon. And he's always wearing that hat, hiding something. We'll claim it's to conceal his true identity." Another student, more hesitant, interjected. "I heard he wears the hat because he has a skin condition and can't be in the Sunday." The long-faced youth dismissed the comment with a wave. "Who cares about the real reason? It's all about what we say. Who's going to know the truth? As long as we cast doubt, people will start to believe it. We don't need to prove he's a demon. Just spreading the rumor will give us the excuse to confront him. Then, we can decide how to handle him." Shigeyoshi's eyes brightened with malicious glee. It was a clever plan. Not only could they take down Aomura, but they could also ruin his reputation. The young man continued, his grin widening. "We can also use the fact that Aomura just joined the dojo. Why is he so strong? Because he's a demon. Why does he have those powerful moves? Because he's not human." Shigeyoshi nodded, adding his own twist to the plan. "I'll talk to my uncle. He's a manager at Fujita Steel and has connections in the police. We can get them to help us catch the demon." The long-faced youth laughed, his tone sinister. "Perfect. We'll make sure he gets a lesson he'll never forget." One of their friends, more cautious, voiced his concern. Isn't this going too far? I've heard that prison can be brutal. Even if you survive, you come out broken. The long-faced youth shrugged, indifferent to the consequences. What does it matter to us? He's a demon. The more he suffers, the better. Meanwhile, Akiyama Keisuke was hurrying towards the dojo, worry etched on his face. The situation had spiraled out of control, and he needed to inform his master about the unfolding crisis. As he approached the entrance, he noticed a girl with strikingly colored hair standing nearby. Recognizing her, he approached. Miss Kenroji, can I help you with something? Kenroji Mitsurai's face lit up with hope. Can you get Mr. Aomura for me? Akiyama sighed inwardly. Of course, she was looking for Aomura. I'm afraid junior brother Aomura isn't here right now. Her shoulders drooped slightly in disappointment. Oh, really? Akiyama quickly added, and there's been some trouble at the dojo. It's best if Aomura doesn't come back for now. If you see him, please let him know to stay away. Kenroji's eyes widened with concern. What happened? It's a complicated situation, Akiyama explained, his voice low. Rumors are spreading that Aomura is a demon. At first, I didn't believe it, but now the police are involved. They're coming to arrest him. Please, if you see him, tell him to stay away until we sort this out. With a quick bow, Akiyama hurried back inside, leaving Kenroji standing there, a look of deep worry on her face. What's really going on? She muttered to herself, glancing back at the dojo before turning to leave. Chapter 24, Truth and Sin. Night had fallen, casting an eerie quiet over the city. Aoki returned to the Yehime Society, now bathed in the shadows of the surrounding buildings. He stood silently on the rooftop of a nearby structure, his sharp eyes taking in the scene below. The society's exterior, with its grey roof, white walls and the few cherry trees in the corner, seemed innocuous at a glance. It bore the tranquil facade of any upscale establishment. Yet Aoki sensed something far more sinister beneath its placid surface. It's time to go in and take a closer look, he murmured to himself, fixing his gaze on a second-floor window. In an instant, his figure vanished into the night. Reappearing inside, he found himself in an elegantly appointed room. The walls were adorned with exquisite paintings and calligraphy, while an incense burner on a nearby table emitted a faint, calming fragrance. The room's refined ambience was lost on Aoki, who moved with purpose and urgency. His search through the rooms yielded nothing of note, leaving him momentarily frustrated. Another wasted trip, he thought, a frown creasing his face. But something feels off. As he pondered, voices and the heavy sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. He melded seamlessly into the shadows just as a group entered the room. Leading the group was a corpulent man, his body so rotund he resembled a walking sphere. Flanking him were two equally rotund middle-aged men. Behind them, a contingent of a dozen bodyguards spread out, securing all exits and entrances. With a soft click, a wall decorated with a cherry blossom pattern split open, revealing a hidden passage. The men entered the passage in single file, moving with a sense of urgency. As the wall closed behind them, Aoki's sharp eyes caught a glimpse of the secret within. No wonder something felt wrong, Aoki whispered to himself. There's more space inside than what's visible from the outside. He slipped into the passage unnoticed, even as the bodyguards continued their vigilant watch. Moving silently, Aoki followed the corridor, which led deeper into the building. At its end, two guards stood sentry, blocking further progress. Calculating his approach, Aoki knew he had to act swiftly. He considered his options. He could attempt to bypass them stealthily, but the risks were high. Deciding on a direct approach, he braced himself. If he failed, he was ready to accept the consequences. Aoki emerged from the shadows, making his way past the guards in a swift, fluid motion. The corridor opened into a lavishly decorated chamber, its opulence surprising him. The ceiling's crystal chandeliers cast a soft, warm light, illuminating the room's grand decor. This isn't the dark secret lair I expected, Aoki thought, bewildered by the disparity between the lavish interior and the sinister activities he suspected. Moving on, he continued to explore, using his space shuttle ability to slip through the building unnoticed. His journey eventually led him to a starkly different part of the society. Here, the lights were dim, the room small and oppressive. Is this a prison? He wondered, noting the narrow cells lining the corridor. Each door was solid, with only small, shuttered openings. Footsteps approached, and Aoki retreated into the shadows once more. 3 women appeared, a stern middle-aged woman leading 2 younger girls, both bound by ropes around their necks. The girls' disheveled appearance and the fear in their eyes struck a chord with Aoki. He recognized one of the girls. Despite her haggard state, her soft features and slim figure were unmistakable. She looked just like the woman in the photograph that Keisuke Akiyama had shown him. Could this be Mizuno Tao? He thought, recalling the rumors of her abduction by a demon. But why is she here? The stern woman pushed the girls into a cell. Study hard tomorrow, or you'll face severe punishment. She barked before slamming the door shut. Once the woman's footsteps faded, Mizuno Tao crumpled to the floor, her face a mask of despair. A sudden, soft noise startled her. She turned and saw Aoki standing in the shadows. He moved quickly, covering her mouth gently with his hand and motioning for silence. "Shh," he whispered. Her wide, frightened eyes gradually softened with recognition. She nodded slightly, indicating her understanding. Aoki released her and stepped back, his expression serious. "Are you Mizuno Tao?" he asked quietly. She nodded again, studying him with a mix of curiosity and confusion. "Yes, I am. Who are you?" "There's no time for that now," Aoki replied, his voice low and urgent. "Tell me, where is this place? Have you been here since you were taken?" Tao nodded, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I woke up here after being knocked out. There are many women like me. Some disappear after being taken away, others are tortured. They force us to learn how to serve men, to become obedient slaves. Those who resist are punished severely. I saw 2 girls strangled to death for defiance. A/N, I hope MC kill *s them." Aoki listened, his resolve hardening with each word. "Stay here," he instructed. "I'll come back for you." Before she could respond, Aoki vanished again, leaving Tao alone in the oppressive darkness. She sat back, hugging her knees, hoping that his promise wasn't just a cruel trick of her mind. As Aoki moved deeper into the building, the air grew hotter, and a foul, burning odor assaulted his senses. He followed the smell to a large room dominated by a massive furnace. White flames flickered inside it, sending waves of heat throughout the space. Nearby, a cart held the naked, battered bodies of 3 women. Their lifeless faces were etched with expressions of terror and pain. 2 masked men approached the cart, preparing to dispose of the bodies. "How many this week?" one asked casually. "Mind your own business," the other snapped back. "Why care? There's no shortage of women here." The first man shrugged. "It just seems like a waste, is all. Shut up and do your job." As they lifted one of the bodies, ready to feed it to the flames, Aoki acted. In a blur of motion, he appeared beside them. With a swift strike, their heads separated from their bodies, falling to the ground with a sickening thud. Aoki stood over the headless corpses, his voice a cold whisper. "You deserve this." For the first time, Aoki had taken a life, but he felt no remorse, only a burning resolve. This place was a cesspool of human depravity, and he would cleanse it. He covered the bodies with a cloth and left the room. Outside, 2 guards armed with long swords approached, their faces hardening with recognition and alarm. They moved to draw their weapons, but Aoki was faster. He became a shadow, slipping between them. As he passed, their bodies collapsed, heads severed cleanly. Aoki moved through the building, his path marked by the blood of the guilty. Headless bodies lay strewn in his wake, silent testimony to his lethal efficiency. He spared none who participated in the atrocities here. This was no place for mercy. He reached a grand palace room, its opulent decor in stark contrast to the horrors he had witnessed. Inside, dozens of young girls in revealing, ornate costumes barely more than erotic rags served 3 corpulent, naked men. Aoki pushed the door open, his eyes narrowing with cold fury as they settled on the men. One of them, Fuja, scowled at the interruption. "What are you doing here? Get out!" Aoki moved with blinding speed. In an instant, the 2 men beside Fuja became headless corpses. Fuja recoiled in shock, falling back as he tried to escape. Aoki was on him before he could move, his voice low and deadly. "Wait. We can talk this out." Fuja stammered, fear contorting his features. "You don't deserve an easy death," Aoki replied coldly. With a swift kick, Fujida's head was separated from his body, his lifeless form crumpling to the ground. Aoki turned to the terrified girls, their faces a mixture of fear, hope, and confusion. Stay here. I'll be back. Leaving the palace, Aoki continued his grim work, ensuring that every participant in this nightmarish place met their end. A half-hour later, Aoki gathered the freed captives in the palace's main hall. He looked around at the young faces, some as young as 10, none older than 20. Over 200 girls, traumatized and broken, but now free. You are free, Aoki said simply, his voice carrying a note of quiet authority. Go. Leave this place. As he vanished into the night, the girls stood in stunned silence. Then, as if a dam had burst, they surged toward the exit, running toward their newfound freedom. Mizuno Tao, covered in blood and dirt, ran with them. Her heart pounded not with fear, but with a wild, desperate hope. As she emerged into the open air and saw the stars, tears blurred her vision. She was free. Aoki watched from the rooftop as the girls poured out, their cries and laughter mingling in a cacophony of relief and joy. He sighed and flew away. Sometime humans are scarier than demon. Chapter 25, Catching and Encountering a Real Demon. Stepping softly under the moon's silvery glow, Aoki made his way toward the dojo, his pace unhurried but steady. The cool night air helped to clear his thoughts, which had been tumultuous earlier. His mood, once clouded by a myriad of thoughts, was beginning to stabilize. This world was filled with problems beyond his control. Aoki had long understood that. But it seemed particularly poignant now. After all, he was no longer human, he was a demon and alien in this society. If people discovered the truth about him, they might fear him more than they did the actual villains lurking in the shadows. Just live your life, Aoki mused. This mantra had become a comforting reminder of his need to focus on what he could control. As he approached the dojo, he sensed something amiss. Before he could react, someone grabbed his arm and yanked him aside. Go, go, go. We need to leave now. Keisuke's voice was urgent, filled with an unusual intensity. Aoki allowed himself to be pulled along, his curiosity piqued. Brother Keisuke, what's going on? Not now. Let's just move. Keisuke's frantic words were abruptly cut off as they came face to face with a group of men blocking their path. Where do you think you're going? Fujita Shigeyoshi sneered, his eyes gleaming with a predatory satisfaction. On either side of Fujita were two policemen, and next to them stood a young man with a distinctly horse-like face. Their aggressive stances left no doubt about their hostile intentions. Keisuke's expression turned grim. Brother Fujita, this is just a misunderstanding from a training match. There's no need for this confrontation. I'll apologize on behalf of Brother Ayamura. If you have any other demands, just name them. Aoki ignored Fujita's group, turning his attention to Keisuke. Despite Keisuke's outward appearance of being honest and somewhat dull, Aoki knew he was sincere, upright, and surprisingly adaptable, a steadfast ally. Brother Keisuke, this isn't about training, Fujita Shigeyoshi declared, his tone dripping with mockery. We're here to catch a demon. Demon? Me? Aoki raised an eyebrow, genuinely puzzled. What was happening? Had he been exposed? But where were the Demon Slayer Corps? Did these people actually think they could capture him with just a couple of policemen? A policeman stepped forward, his voice brimming with authority. We suspect you're involved in the recent disappearances. You need to come with us for questioning. Aoki's mind raced as he evaluated the situation. It seems they have no concrete evidence and are just trying to pin these crimes on me, he thought. Ordinary people wouldn't confront a demon with such arrogance unless they were unaware of his true nature. Clearly, they had no real understanding of what a demon was. Otherwise, their approach and accusations wouldn't be so comically misguided. Unfortunately for them, they were too late. If this had happened the day before, it might have genuinely disturbed him. Fujita Shigeyoshi continued, his voice tinged with malice. Who says we don't have evidence? Your eyes, they're the eyes of a demon. Normal people don't have eyes like that. You wear a hat all the time to hide your identity. Aoki's expression turned curious. If they weren't so clueless about demons, he might have been genuinely worried. But their accusations were baseless fabrications. All their claims were products of their imagination. Their talent for inventing stories was almost impressive. The horse-faced youth chimed in darkly, he wasn't at the dojo all day. He could have been out preying on more victims. Officer, I suggest you arrest him immediately. The policemen exchanged glances, their grips tightening on their weapons as they approached Aoki. "You'd better surrender quietly," one policeman barked. "Don't make us use force." "Wait." Akiyama Keisuke started to intervene, but Aoki stopped him with a firm gesture. "Brother, I'll handle this." Without another word, Aoki stepped forward, locking eyes with the policeman. His golden, vertical pupils seemed to pierce their very souls, causing them to falter and slow their approach. Realizing their fear, the policemen grew angry, their pride stung. Drawing their weapons, one of them shouted, "Stand down, or else." "Be cautious, officers," Fujita Shigeyoshi warned with a sneer. "He's a martial artist and can be incredibly dangerous." The horse-faced youth added eagerly, "Need help, officers? We can handle him." "Yes. We can take him." Fujita Shigeyoshi and his group moved closer, ready for a fight. The policemen, knowing they were acting under dubious pretexts, quickly agreed. "All right, take him down." Fujita Shigeyoshi, the horse-faced youth, and their cronies encircled Aoki. In an instant, a dark blur swept through the air. Thud. Two arms, still clutching weapons, flew into the air. The policemen's faces twisted from shock to horror as they clutched their severed limbs, their screams piercing the night. "Ah!" Fujita Shigeyoshi and his gang recoiled in terror, stumbling backward. You attacked the police." Fujita's voice was a mix of disbelief and fear. "I spared them out of mercy," Aoki replied calmly, stepping forward. "Now, what's your connection to the Fujita family of Fujita Steel?" Fujita Nariyuki, beads of sweat forming on his brow, stammered, "My uncle manages Fujita Steel. I'm a distant relative. If you harm me, the Fujita family will come after you." "The Fujita family deserves to die," Aoki's voice was now icy. The Fujita family, founders of the Yehime Society, had indulged in heinous activities, using their influence to cater to dark, twisted desires. They had become a symbol of corruption and depravity. Given his current situation, Aoki couldn't bring them all to justice. But he wouldn't show any leniency to those who dared confront him. What? Fujita Shigeyoshi's voice quivered. His eyes widened in terror, severing his head cleanly from his shoulders. Blood gushed from the stump of his neck, splattering those nearby. Especially the horse-faced youth, who stood closest. He was now drenched in blood, frozen in shock. Thud. Fujita Shigeyoshi's head hit the ground and rolled a few feet away. "Ah!" The horse-faced youth and the others screamed in horror, trying to flee. "Stop!" Aoki's voice was calm but carried an unspoken command. They froze, turning back to look at him with abject fear. "Explain what happened. Why did you frame me?" Aoki demanded. All eyes turned to the horse-faced youth, who was now trembling uncontrollably. "It wasn't me. I didn't want to hurt you. It was Fujita Shigeyoshi." He shrieked, barely able to control his bladder. "No, he suggested framing you." Another member of the group quickly interjected, pointing fingers to distance himself from the horse-faced youth. "You're the one who started this." The horse-faced youth screamed back, launching himself at his accuser in a fit of panic and rage. Chaos ensued as the group descended into a brawl, all trying to pin the blame on each other. The horse-faced youth found himself overwhelmed, kicked and beaten into submission by his erstwhile companions. Suddenly, the horse-faced youth grabbed at his throat, his face contorting in pain. His skin turned an alarming shade of purple, and within moments, he collapsed, lifeless. The attackers backed away, their heavy breaths mingling with the night air as they stared in horror at the dead body. None of them could comprehend what had just happened. They stood there, stunned and terrified, unsure of what their next move should be. Chapter 26, Aoki's Gift. The young man with the horse-like face lay dead on the dojo floor, his neck snapped, the life choked out of him. Aoki stood over the body, his expression a mix of surprise and grim acceptance. These men were seasoned martial artists, each with formidable strength. It wasn't beyond the realm of possibility for one of them to have inadvertently caused such a fatal injury amidst the chaos of their struggle. But even so, the coincidence was startling. Keisuke Akiyama's shock was palpable as he surveyed the scene. The development of events had spiraled far beyond anything he could have anticipated from the outset. "It's over." What was meant to be a straightforward training session had escalated into a catastrophe that none of them had foreseen. He had expected that junior brother Aomura might be the one to bear the brunt of the situation. Yet, here they were, with the tables turned so dramatically. Even in his final moments, Fujita Shigeyoshi could never have predicted that junior brother Aomura's reaction would be so overwhelmingly fierce. Did he regret it in those last fleeting seconds? Keisuke Akiyama's emotions were a turbulent storm. What was supposed to be a routine exercise had devolved into a nightmarish tragedy. Their dojo was partly to blame for letting it reach this point. Regardless, they couldn't let the situation deteriorate any further. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, Akiyama stepped forward and addressed Aoki, his voice carrying a note of urgency. Junior brother, Fujita Shigeyoshi is dead, and the one who caused it has paid with his life. The others here, though complicit, do not deserve death. Spare them, I beg you. Aoki turned his gaze to Akiyama. The instinctive step back that Akiyama took didn't go unnoticed, and he flushed with embarrassment when he realized it. Besides, Akiyama continued, fighting to regain his composure, Fujita Shigeru wronged you first. Killing him could be seen as an act of self-defense, to some extent. But if you go further, there will be no path for redemption. You'll lose any chance to make things right. Aoki's voice was calm, almost serene. Don't worry, senior brother. I never intended to kill them. I'm not a murderer by nature. Fujita Shigeyoshi was dead, and those directly responsible had met their end. The remaining participants in this grim episode would carry the weight of this day for the rest of their lives. For Aoki, this was a satisfactory conclusion. While he had taken lives before more than he cared to count, this wasn't a case of random slaughter. As Aoki's words sank in, a collective sigh of relief rippled through the onlookers. Some even began to sob quietly, their emotions finally finding release. Thank you, junior brother, Akiyama exhaled deeply, his relief almost palpable. Aoki glanced back toward the dojo, his expression resolute. Senior brother, it's time for me to leave. Are you leaving now? Akiyama's surprise was evident. Aoki nodded. Fujita Shigeyoshi and his men were merely a symptom of a much larger issue. The real threat loomed in the shadows, in the form of the Yehime Society's dark machinations. Aoki had managed to dismantle their operations, but the true fallout was just beginning. Staying here would only invite more trouble to his doorstep. With the combat system established, the funds secured, and the once hopeless disappearance case resolved, albeit not exactly as he had envisioned, his objectives were met. So why not leave? Akiyama, seeing the determination in Aoki's eyes, sighed with a bitter smile. Very well. I won't try to stop you. As if suddenly remembering something, Akiyama quickly added, by the way, Miss Kanroji was looking for you today. I told her to inform you not to return to the dojo if she saw you. She's been searching for you all day. Perhaps you should say goodbye before you leave. Aoki nodded slightly, showing his appreciation. I understand. Thank you for everything, senior brother. I've prepared a small gift for you. Akiyama was taken aback. A gift? Aoki didn't explain further, offering only a slight smile before disappearing into the shadows. Akiyama stood there, staring at the spot where Aoki had just been, the weight of his departure heavy in the air. He sighed softly, junior brother Aomura is truly no ordinary man. The silence was soon shattered by the sound of rapid footsteps approaching. Keisuke, is Aomura back? What's the situation like? Mizuno Kengo emerged from the dojo, his face pale with worry. He stopped abruptly, his eyes widening in horror as he took in the blood and the body lying on the ground. Dead, they're dead. Master. Akiyama hurried towards him, trying to offer some semblance of reassurance. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, Mizuno Kengo asked, Keisuke, what happened here? Akiyama briefly recounted the events that had unfolded with stark clarity. Mizuno's expression shifted from shock to contemplation as he listened. After a long, tense silence, he finally spoke. And Aomura? Junior brother Aomura left immediately, Akiyama replied. Mizuno nodded slightly, a faint hint of relief crossing his features. That's for the best, for both him and us. Akiyama's face grew serious as he thought about the consequences. Master, we're going to have trouble dealing with the aftermath of this. With 2 police officers injured and 2 men dead, one of whom was a member of the influential Fujita family, it was undeniably a grave situation. Especially since the perpetrator was from their dojo. Yet, Mizuno's calmness seemed almost serene. Keisuke, I've been contemplating something for a while now, and this incident might be the catalyst we needed. Akiyama appeared to understand, a shadow of sorrow in his eyes. Master. Mizuno raised a hand, silencing him gently. Lately, I've felt my strength waning. I'm not sure how much longer I can continue to serve as dojo master. Keisuke, you've mastered the essence of Aoki Ryu. I'm considering. He paused abruptly as the sound of hurried footsteps once again filled the air, drawing closer. Mizuno and Akiyama turned to face the approaching figure. A shadow emerged from the darkness, clothed in formal attire, and threw herself into Mizuno's arms, crying out, "Father!" Her voice was a poignant mix of relief, fear, and overwhelming joy. Mizuno froze, unable to comprehend what was happening. After a long, stunned moment, he slowly lifted his trembling hand, hovering it above her shoulder, too afraid to touch, lest she vanish like a mirage. He had dreamt of this moment countless times, each time waking just as he reached out to embrace her. Even if this were a dream, he wanted to hold onto it for a while longer. Akiyama, equally stunned, stared at the girl clinging to his master. Even without seeing her face, he recognized her instantly. This was the person he dreamed of every night, the one he thought he'd lost forever. Tears welled up in his eyes as he whispered, "Taiko, is it really you?" The girl turned and rushed into Akiyama's arms, crying, "Keisuke! I finally found you!" As she left his embrace, Mizuno Kengo finally came to his senses. This wasn't a dream. This was real. Taiko was truly back. Tears streamed down his face as he reached out, pulling his daughter and disciple into a tight, heartfelt embrace. The three of them stood there, holding each other, crying tears of relief and joy, finding solace in the shared warmth of their reunion. The night air, once heavy with tension and fear, was now filled with the sounds of their cries, a testament to the bonds that had brought them together and the hope that had been rekindled. Chapter 27, Identify and Farewell. As the night wore on, the Mizuno household was enveloped in a heavy, almost tangible silence. Mizuno Kengo, his mind still reeling from the evening's revelations, gently carried his daughter Taiko into the dojo. Her weight, though light, felt significant with the burden of her recent ordeal. Keisuke Akiyama, walking close behind, couldn't bring himself to look away from Taiko. The sight of her frail, sleeping form stirred a mix of relief and lingering horror in his heart. Outside, the remnants of the night's chaos, the broken bodies, the wounded policemen, and the still shaken bystanders faded from their immediate concern. For now, their world shrank to the confines of their small home, where the safety and well-being of Taiko were all that mattered. Back in the familiar warmth of the bedroom, Mizuno Kengo laid his daughter gently on the bed. The familiar creak of the old wooden floor and the comforting scent of home seemed to stir Taiko from her sleep. She sat up abruptly, her eyes wide and wild with fear, scanning the room as if unsure whether she was truly safe. "We're here," her father's voice broke through her disorientation. He sat beside her on the bed, wrapping his arms around her shoulders in a reassuring embrace. "Don't be afraid, Taiko. You're back home. You're safe now." Keisuke knelt beside them, taking Taiko's hand in his. "It's over, Taiko. You're home, and you're safe," he said softly, his voice filled with a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. Taiko's eyes slowly focused on their faces. With their soothing words and gentle presence, the tight grip of fear began to loosen its hold on her. She took a deep, shuddering breath and leaned into her father's embrace, finding comfort in the solid reality of their love and concern. After a long moment, Mizuno Kengo gently pulled back to look into his daughter's eyes. "Taiko, can you tell us what happened? Where have you been all this time?" A shadow passed over Taiko's face as the memories surfaced, but she forced herself to meet her father's gaze. Slowly, hesitantly, she began to recount her ordeal. As she spoke, her voice quivered with remnants of fear, but it grew steadier as she continued, the words a cathartic release of the trauma she had endured. She told them of the dark, suffocating cell where she had been confined, of the cruel guards who enforced their will through violence and intimidation, and of the other captives who shared her fate. As her story unfolded, Mizuno Kengo and Keisuke Akiyama listened in growing horror and fury. "Beasts!" Keisuke spat, his hands clenched into fists. "Worse than pigs and dogs. They deserve to die." Mizuno Kengo's voice was a low, dangerous growl, filled with restrained fury. "Those people will pay for what they've done." Taiko's eyes were steady as she continued, recounting the moment of her unexpected rescue. "But it turns out the so-called demon that was haunting the city was just a person, someone who used the guise of a demon to commit their crimes. They built a whole network of terror right under our noses. Keisuke's face darkened with renewed determination. We need to call the police. They need to know everything. We can't let those monsters get away with this. Mizuno Kengo, though equally enraged, remained more composed. Taiko is right. We're dealing with something far more sinister than we can handle alone. Whoever set up this operation had connections and power far beyond what the police can touch on their own. We need to be smart about how we move forward. Taiko's voice, surprisingly steady, cut through their rising anger. The magic cave has already been destroyed. That's the only reason I managed to escape. Mizuno Kengo and Keisuke Akiyama paused, exchanging a look of confusion and dawning realization. Destroyed? They echoed. Taiko nodded, her eyes distant as she recalled the events. I don't know exactly what happened. Earlier today, I had deliberately slowed my work to provoke them, hoping to buy some time. They threw me into solitary confinement as punishment. I thought I was done for. But then, a stranger appeared in my cell. Her voice softened with a mix of wonder and gratitude. He asked me if I was Mizuno Taiko and about the layout of the place. Then he left, promising to return. I thought it was just a hallucination, something my desperate mind had conjured. But an hour later, he came back. When he led me out, the entire compound was in chaos, a river of blood. All the guards had been killed. She paused, her voice trembling slightly at the memory. He gathered all the captives and told us, "You are free now." Then he disappeared as quickly as he had come. Keisuke Akiyama, shaken by her story, whispered, "I wish I could thank him. Whoever he is, he saved you and countless others." Mizuno Kengo, ever the keen observer, picked up on a crucial detail. "Taiko, did he know your name? Could he have been someone you've met before?" Taiko shook her head, her brow furrowing in thought. "No, I don't think so. But he had these incredible golden eyes like nothing I've ever seen. If I had seen them before, I'd remember. Golden vertical pupils." Mizuno Kengo and Keisuke Akiyama said simultaneously, both caught off guard. Taiko's curiosity was piqued. "Have either of you ever met someone with eyes like that?" Keisuke Akiyama's expression turned intense as he quickly asked, "Was he a tall, strong young man with black hair? Did he have a yellow wine gourd hanging from his waist?" Taiko's eyes widened in recognition. "Yes, he did have a gourd hanging from his waist." "It must have been junior brother Aomura," Keisuke murmured, a mix of awe and disbelief coloring his voice. "Aomura? Junior brother?" Taiko repeated, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fit together. Mizuno Kengo filled in the blanks, recounting the brief yet transformative presence of Aoki at their dojo. "Not long ago, a promising student joined us at the dojo. That was Aomura. And it seems that in just a few days, he's changed the fate of our dojo, our family, and even this entire city." Keisuke Akiyama's voice was tinged with regret and admiration. "Before he left, he mentioned a small gift for me. Now, it's clear he meant bringing Taiko back to us." Mizuno Kengo shook his head in wonder. "A small gift? This is nothing short of a miracle, a rebirth. But now that he's gone, we may never have the chance to repay him." Keisuke Akiyama nodded solemnly. "Tomorrow, everyone in Azabu will know the name Aomura. His actions will reverberate throughout the city." The sheer scale of Aoki's actions began to sink in. The liberation of countless missing girls, the obliteration of a notorious crime ring, and the dismantling of an evil empire all in one fell swoop. It was a deed so monumental that it would overshadow any lesser concerns. Mizuno Kengo's eyes hardened with resolve. "This isn't over. The perpetrators behind this atrocity will face justice. We will not rest until the Fuja family and all those complicit in this horror are held accountable." Though their dojo wasn't a match for the Fuja family in wealth or power, Mizuno Kengo's influence and the unity of the victims' families would create an unstoppable force of righteous anger. Meanwhile, Aoki made his way through the night, the world a blur as he used his powers to traverse the city. His destination was the home of Mitsurai Kenroji. He had long known where she lived, having kept tabs on her in his search for the elusive demon. Arriving at her doorstep, he raised his hand to knock but was interrupted by the creak of the door opening. Mitsurai Kenroji stood there, her pink pigtails glowing softly in the moonlight. "Miss Kenroji," Aoki greeted with a warm smile. "Mr. Aomura!" she exclaimed in surprise, her eyes widening before she quickly covered her mouth. Glancing around nervously, she grabbed his arm and pulled him into the yard, closing the door behind them with a solid thud. Inside, the Kenroji family's gaze was fixed on the two visitors. A middle-aged man and woman, and 4 children stood silently, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Aoki bowed politely. "Good evening. My name is Ayamura, a friend of Miss Kenroji." The man, tall and dignified, nodded in acknowledgement. "Ah, so you are Ayamura. Welcome." The woman, gentle and kind, smiled warmly as she ushered the children away. "Please, feel free to talk. We'll give you some privacy." With a few words of thanks, Aoki and Mitsurai found themselves alone in the quiet yard. Mitsurai's cheeks were flushed, and she seemed both excited and nervous. "Mr. Ayamura, your dojo sent word that you shouldn't return there tonight," Mitsurai said, her voice tinged with worry. Aoki nodded. "I'm aware. But I'm here for a different reason tonight. I've come to say goodbye." "Goodbye?" Mitsurai repeated, her voice betraying confusion. "I'm leaving," Aoki clarified. "Where are you going?" Mitsurai asked, her daze evident in her tone. "I don't have a specific destination. I'll be traveling around," Aoki replied calmly. His first stop was certain, but everything else would depend on the circumstances. After a brief hesitation, Aoki pulled out the black socks he had prepared. "This is for you," he said, offering them to Mitsurai. Mitsurai covered her mouth, surprise replacing any earlier disappointment. "Mr. Ayamura, is this for me?" "It's a parting gift," Aoki explained with a calm smile. He hadn't thought of anything else, he simply found the green socks unsuitable. Mitsurai blushed once more. "But I didn't prepare a gift for you." "There's no need. Just be kind when we meet again," Aoki replied, smiling and waving his hand casually. "Be kind?" Mitsurai asked, still puzzled. "Goodbye, Miss Kenroji," Aoki said, nodding before turning away. Without further explanation, he waved his hand, leapt lightly onto the wall of Kenroji's house, and vanished into the night sky. Mitsurai watched him disappear into the distance, lost in thought. After a while, she turned and walked back into the house. The elegant man who had been reading a book looked up. "Where's Ayamura, Mitsurai?" Mitsurai held the socks in her hand, excitement lighting up her face. "Mr. Ayamura came to say goodbye to me, and now he's gone." Observing her elation, the elegant man couldn't help but look perplexed. Why was she so happy to bid him farewell? Chapter 28, Shinobu's Suspicion. A faint milky white light appeared on the horizon and quickly spread across the sky. As the red sun leaped up, it completely dispelled the lingering darkness. Shinobu Koko looked up. At the end of the road, a huge city loomed into view. Finally here, she breathed a sigh of relief. This mission wasn't originally hers, but since she was planning to visit Aunt Ruie and Takina, she decided to take it on as it was on the way. Upon entering the city, Shinobu immediately sensed that something was amiss. The air was charged with a restless energy. People gathered in small groups on the street, discussing something with expressions that ranged from anger to elation. More troubling was that she occasionally heard the word demon among their murmurs. Could it be that in this city, the demon menace was already known to everyone? Shinobu's curiosity was piqued, and she decided to find someone to question. Just then, a girl with a long, cherry-colored braid caught her eye as she approached. Shinobu stepped forward and stopped her. "Hello, what's happening here?" The girl, taken aback by Shinobu's attire, widened her eyes and blurted out, "Are you from the Demon Slayer Corps?" Shinobu was surprised. "You know about the Demon Slayer Corps?" Very few people were aware of demons in the Corps. Could this girl have had contact with them? "I've heard about it from others," the girl replied, her excitement barely contained. "Come to my house, I'll tell you everything." Shinobu smiled. "All right." It was broad daylight, making it unlikely to encounter a demon. Finding someone knowledgeable about demons in the Corps could be quite helpful. After following the girl for a short walk, they reached a modest house. Once inside, the girl, who introduced herself as Mitsurai Kenroji, offered Shinobu a cup of tea. After taking a sip, Shinobu got straight to the point. "So, what exactly happened here?" Mitsurai looked puzzled. "There aren't any demons at all. The recent disappearances were the work of the Fujita family and their company, Fujita Steel." The revelation was surprising. Shinobu had expected demons but was met with a human culprit instead. "Then the rumors about demons?" Mitsurai nodded. Yes, everyone thought demons were behind it, but it turns out it was all orchestrated by the Fujita family. What's even more shocking is that Mr. Aomura destroyed the demon lair of the Yahame Society. Mr. Aomura? Shinobu echoed, intrigued. Who is he? Mr. Aomura is incredibly strong and kind. Mitsurai's eyes sparkled with admiration. He's the one who told me about the Demon Slayer Corps. Shinobu's interest was piqued. You know him? Mitsurai nodded eagerly. Yes, his dojo isn't far from here. We met by chance and became friends. Shinobu pondered this. I need to visit this Yahame society you mentioned. Mitsurai hesitated. But it's surrounded by police now. That's not a problem, Shinobu assured her. She was curious about this Mr. Aomura. His strength and the detail about his golden eyes made her wonder if he could be a demon. Yet, the idea of a demon saving people seemed contradictory. She needed to see the place for herself. Following Mitsurai's directions, Shinobu found the Yahame Society building. As expected, police officers were stationed outside. Undeterred, she slipped past them and entered the club, quickly finding the real entrance to the scene. The sight inside was ghastly. Blood stained the floor, walls, and even the ceiling. The stench was overwhelming, making Shinobu feel slightly nauseous. As she ventured deeper, she found bodies strewn across the place, turning the entire scene into a vision of hell. Despite the horrific scene, Shinobu maintained her composure. She found no evidence to suggest Mr. Aomura was a demon. The bodies, though mutilated, did not show signs of being bitten. This seemed inconsistent with demon behavior, as such a place would be a feast for them. Could there really be a demon who could resist such temptation? Or had a demon perhaps taken some bodies away? Shinobu left the Yahame Society with a grave expression. She had seen countless bloody scenes in her career, but this one was exceptionally brutal. She returned to Mitsurai's house, hoping to gather more information. How was it? Mitsurai asked eagerly as Shinobu entered. Shinobu shook her head. Miss Kanroji, I need to know more about Mr. Aomura. Of course. What do you want to know? Mitsurai sat up straight, ready to share. Is there anything unusual about him? Any habits or peculiarities? Shinobu inquired. Mitsurai's cheeks reddened slightly. Well, he's very handsome. Shinobu suppressed a smile. I mean more about his routine or behavior. What does he do during the day? Oh, I see. Mr. Aomura has a skin condition and can't be exposed to sunlight. So, he usually practices indoors during the day, Mitsurai explained. Can't be exposed to sunlight. Shinobu's suspicion grew. So, he never goes out during the day. Mitsurai shook her head. Not quite. He goes out, but he always wears a large hat with a cloth draped around it to block the sunday. Shinobu's mind raced. If he could be out in the sunlight, he couldn't be a demon. What kind of hat? Mitsurai described, gesturing with her hands. It's a big, black hat with a cloth around it for shade. Shinobu sighed, feeling a bit relieved. It seemed she might have been overly suspicious. A demon wouldn't be able to tolerate any exposure to sunlight, even with such precautions. Mitsurai's curiosity piqued. Why are you so interested in Mr. Aomura, Shinobu? For a moment, Shinobu was at a loss for words. She couldn't just say she suspected her friend might be a demon. Mitsurai's eyes sparkled again. Do you want Mr. Aomura to join the Demon Slayer Corps? He's incredibly strong. He can break rocks with his bare hands. But you're a day too late, he left town yesterday. He's certainly impressive, Shinobu agreed, seizing the chance to change the subject. But now that the matter is resolved, I should be on my way. Wait a moment, Shinobu, Mitsurai interjected hesitantly. Can I join the Demon Slayer Corps? Shinobu was taken aback. You want to join? But why? She knew Mitsurai's background, a happy family life with no apparent reason to face the dangers of demon slaying. I want to help others, just like Mr. Aomura does. Mitsurai's earnestness was evident. Shinobu considered her words carefully. The work of the Demon Slayer Corps is very dangerous. You could lose your life. I'm not afraid. I'm very strong. Mitsurai declared, effortlessly lifting the edge of the table with one hand. Shinobu was about to caution her about the dangers of demons, but the display of strength left her momentarily speechless. In Mitsurai, she saw a rare determination and an incredible strength that might make her a valuable ally. Perhaps, in time, she could guide Mitsurai towards the path of the Demon Slayer core. Chapter 29, The End of the Lower Moon. The north wind bit fiercely, snowflakes swirled like dancing spirits, and the world was blanketed in a stark, cold white. Amidst the desolate scene, a long-haired woman, barefoot and desperate, fled across the frozen terrain, glancing over her shoulder in terror. Her once beautiful face was now contorted with fear. He, you can't escape me. A sinister shadow cut through the blizzard, closing in on the woman with terrifying speed. In her frantic flight, her foot snagged on something hidden beneath the snow, and she stumbled forward, her eyes wide with despair. Just as she braced for the icy impact, a firm hand caught her shoulder. A calm male voice murmured from behind her. "Excuse me, do you know how to get to Mount Nagumo?" Startled, the woman turned her head. Standing before her was a young man with jet black hair, seemingly not more than 20 years old. He was tall and striking, with a pair of golden, cat-like eyes that gleamed with a peculiar intensity. "Demon, the demon is coming," she stammered, her voice trembling as she tried to pull him away. "We have to run." But the young man didn't budge. He held her in place effortlessly, his eyes fixed on something behind her. "Demon? You mean him?" The woman followed his gaze and saw a grotesque figure emerge from the snowstorm, a demon with a face like a monkey and unnaturally long arms. The creature glared at them, its expression dark with malice. "This is my territory." The demon screeched at the young man, baring its fangs. "It's over." The woman gasped, stumbling backward and collapsing into the snow. "Relax, I'm not here to fight over territory," the young man, Aoki, said calmly. In the blink of an eye, Aoki vanished from sight. "Hey? Where did he go?" The demon spluttered, its eyes darting around in confusion. Suddenly, its view of the world tilted as if it were looking at the sky. It wasn't until the demon saw its own decapitated body fall backward that it realized what had happened. "You bastard! How dare you attack me? I will!" The demon raged, its voice cut short as it noticed Aoki's serene face up close. Recognition dawned, and the demon's fury turned to fear. You're a defector from his ranks!" the demon shrieked. Aoki's lips curled into a faint smile. "So, even demons recognize me now. Muzan sure does spread the word fast." Each demon Aoki had encountered since his defection seemed to know who he was, a testament to how much attention Muzan Kibutsuji, the Demon King, had given him. "No, please. I don't want to die. Let me go," the demon begged, its severed head struggling in its hands as its body staggered toward Aoki. "If wishing away danger were enough, the world would be a much less painful place," Aoki said. With a swift motion, he hurled the demon's head at its own body, sending it crashing to the ground. "Ha ha ha, you're so stupid. You actually threw my head back to me." The demon cackled, reattaching its head with a grim satisfaction. Aoki's expression didn't change. "Aokiryu, storm," he whispered. His entire body became a blur of motion. Fists, elbows, legs, and knees became a whirlwind of deadly strikes, tearing through the demon like a storm of blades. Flesh and bone were shredded in seconds, and the demon was reduced to a quivering, dismembered heap. As the demon's regeneration began to falter, Aoki raised his palm. "Devour." An invisible force pulled the demon's remains into his hand, absorbing them until nothing was left. "You have killed a demon and gained 28 experience points. Congratulations on your level up." "Not bad, 28 points, Aoki mused, satisfied. Although the demon had been easily defeated, it had been more formidable than many of the others he had encountered recently. Turning back to the woman, Aoki asked again, "Do you know how to get to Mount Nagumo?" With a trembling hand, she pointed towards a distant mountain. "Over there, about 10 kilometers away." "Thank you," Aoki said with a slight nod. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the snowy distance. It wasn't until he had vanished from sight that the woman regained her composure. Standing up, she cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted into the blizzard, "Thank you." Aoki paused for a moment, then continued on his way. He hadn't expected to gain a level before reaching Mount Nagumo. The unexpected encounter had provided just enough experience points. He glanced at his system panel and added his newly earned attribute points into physical fitness and agility. A warm sensation spread through his body, briefly countering the biting cold of the storm. The constant sense of oppression he had felt was now gone, replaced with a newfound balance. Name, Aoki. Strength, 13. Physique, 12. Intelligence, 13. Agility, 13. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. White Walker. Quality. Level, LV6, 5/600. Skills, Demon Blood 3, Space Shuttle, Transparent World, Not Learned Yet, Devouring Demon. Free skill points, 1. The attributes are finally almost balanced, Aoki noted with a sigh. He could feel his body approaching an optimal state, and his combat abilities had slightly improved. He had one remaining free skill point, which he decided to save. Upgrading Demon Blood to level 4 required 3 skill points, and unless he found missions that rewarded skill points, he would need to reach level 8 to gather enough. If I can eliminate the demon family at Mount Nagumo, I should be close, Aoki thought, quickening his pace. After about half an hour of trekking through the snow, Aoki raised his hand to shield his eyes from the blizzard and looked up at the imposing mountain ahead. This was Nagumo Mountain, the lair of the Lower Moon 5 demon. Aoki's eyes narrowed. Lower Moon 5. His mission had led him here. Since leaving Azabu, he hadn't been in a rush, preferring to hunt demons along the way to gain strength. But his ultimate goal had always been clear, Nagumo Mountain, where the Lower Moon 5 resided. The last time, I barely escaped from the Lower Moon's siege. What will happen this time? Ding! You have received the mission The End of the Lower Moon. The End of the Lower Moon. The 12 Kizuki are the elite demons under Muzan Kibutsuji's command, each a formidable foe. Mission requirements, kill 3 Lower Moon demons, 0/3. Mission rewards, 1200 experience points, 3 chi and blood pills. Chi and blood pills? Aoki's interest was piqued. These were rare and valuable items that could significantly boost his power, much like the Sunshade Hat and Ghost Wine Gourd he had acquired previously, although they didn't directly enhance his strength. The reward of 1200 experience points was generous, though the mission was far from simple. The challenge lay not only in defeating the lower moons but also in locating 3 of them. With only 6 lower-ranked demons in total, this task was daunting. Aside from the 5th lower-ranked demon, he had no information on the whereabouts of the others. Additionally, there was the rival organization, the Demon Slayer Corps. Unlike him, a lone hunter, the Demon Slayer Corps had far superior intelligence capabilities. Fortunately, the mission had no time limit, allowing him to proceed at his own pace. Regardless of this specific task, his goal remained the same, to demons and seek out elite adversaries like the lower-ranked demons. Chapter 30 Mount Nagumo. The strong wind slapped the treetops, and the snowflakes danced with the gusts. Crunch! Aoki walked along the rugged mountain path, his stride as steady as if he were on level ground, leaving a trail of footprints in the snow. Wow! Next to his footprints, a patch of grass blanketed in snow shook slightly. From beneath it emerged a creature with the head of a human and the body of a spider. It fixed its gaze on Aoki's back, its 8 legs tensed, and then it lunged forward. Aoki spun around abruptly and slapped the creature. Boom! The human-headed spider shrieked, hurtling backward before crashing into a large tree. Seeing his assailant clearly, Aoki frowned. These human-headed spiders were grotesque and terrifying, but he knew they were once human. They had been transformed into these monstrosities by demon poison. Crash! Suddenly, human-headed spiders began to swarm from all directions, encircling Aoki. Ignoring them, Aoki looked up. Suspended in the air by nearly invisible silk threads was a wooden house. Hanging from threads connected to the nearby trees were several shrunken, half-transformed people, slowly turning into spiders. Click, click, click. A larger creature crawled out of the suspended house. It too had a human head, but its spider body was much larger than the others. This was one of the 5 demons of Mount Nagumo, known as Tired Brother, the cause of the human-headed spiders. A demon, Aoki muttered with a sigh. The spider demon looked disappointed, opening its mouth to speak, you. But Aoki didn't let it finish. In a flash, he was above the spider demon, bringing his foot down hard. Bang! 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 The silk threads snapped, the wooden house crumbled, and the spider demon was sent flying, crashing to the ground with a thunderous impact. The demon's body was severed at the middle, spewing blood. It turned to look at Aoki, terror suddenly filling its eyes. A defector! It gasped. Defectors were those who had abandoned their allegiance to demons, possessing powers that could kill demons, feared even more than the Demon Slayer Corps. Don't waste your breath, Aoki growled, his expression one of utter disdain. Your only purpose is to die quickly. He raised his foot and brought it down hard. Poof! The spider demon's head exploded, but its body, undeterred, began to flee frantically. The defectors are here, on Mount Nagumo. I need to find Ruie. Only he can deal with them. As the air around Aoki shimmered and outlined his figure, the headless spider demon didn't notice and ran straight into him. Aoki raised his foot again. Boom! The spider demon was sent flying. Aoki caught up, his palms a blur, severing the spider's legs one by one. By the time the demon hit the ground, only its torso remained. How revolting, Aoki said, wrinkling his nose at the sight. For the first time, he felt a twinge of reluctance about killing, the thought of consuming this thing almost made him nauseous. He sighed and extended his hand. Now wasn't the time to be picky. The spider demon's body began to writhe and soften. Just then, Aoki sensed something in the nearby jungle and turned his head. Ah! A plump female demon, draped in white clothing with hair to match, and a face caked in what looked like white powder, was sprawled on the ground, fear etched across her face. She scrambled to her feet and bolted. Is that Ruie's mother? Aoki mused aloud but did not pursue immediately. Instead, he glanced skyward. Perched atop a tree was a black crow, observing the scene with curiosity, seemingly harmless. Their eyes locked. The crow's feathers flared in alarm, and it nearly toppled from its perch. Without hesitation, it took flight, rising into the sky. As the ground and trees shrank below, the crow began to relax. There are demons here, and more than one. I must report this quickly. Suddenly, the crow felt an immense force restraining its body. Out of the corner of its eye, it saw what seemed to be a giant hand. Before it could comprehend, darkness enveloped its vision, and it found itself back on the ground. Is this a demon slayer's dark crow? Aoki asked, inspecting the bird in his hand with interest. Dark crows were the messengers for the Demon Slayer Corps, highly intelligent and each paired with a Corps member. I'm doomed. How did he catch me? The crow despaired inwardly. Aoki tossed the crow into the air. Go. The crow hesitated for a moment, then flapped its wings and flew upward, though it did not immediately flee. It watched Aoki warily and with suspicion. Why would a demon let it go? Its little brain struggled to comprehend. Aoki had no intention of explaining. Go call for backup. Those human-headed spiders might still be saved. The crow gave Aoki one last look, then sped off into the distance. What a day! It had merely been passing by, curious about the fight it witnessed, and nearly met its end because of it. Defector. The crow mused, noting the crucial detail. It flew faster, determined to relay this vital information. Elsewhere, the demon mother was running as fast as she could, haunted by the image of the spider demon being destroyed and consumed. The rumors about defectors are true. They really can kill demons. Suddenly, her legs went numb, and she lost her balance, crashing into the snow. Boom! After tumbling several times, she came to a stop, her body covered in snow, but she paid no heed. She glanced back in terror, but there was nothing there. Relief washed over her, but a strange male voice cut through the air. In my hometown, there's an old saying, better a live coward than a dead hero. The demon mother's body stiffened, and she turned slowly. On a nearby rock sat a figure with striking golden, vertical pupils. Aoki regarded her calmly. But if you're on a path of suffering, sometimes letting go is the better choice, don't you think? Should demons be exterminated? From a human perspective, most certainly. Demons eat people, and that's an unforgivable crime. If he were human, he would undoubtedly agree with their extermination. But demons, in a way, were also tragic beings. Not all of them chose to become demons. Many were victims themselves at first. And many forget their humanity, turning into monsters driven by simple, primal urges like hunger, power, and survival. The demon mother began, but darkness engulfed her vision, and her consciousness began to fade. Aoki style, funeral, Aoki intoned, appearing by her side. Whatever you did before, it's all over now. Rest in peace. Ah, such peace, she murmured, her eyes closing slowly. So let's end it here. The funeral technique was Aoki's own creation, blending the swiftness of a space shuttle with deadly precision, designed to end his opponent's life swiftly and silently. Chapter 31 Fierce Battle. Mother is dead too. An indifferent voice echoed from above. I thought you'd try to save her. Aoki remained calm as he looked up. A young man with white hair and dressed in flowing white robes hovered in the air. His long hair obscured one eye, and a spider web pattern adorned his robe. It was Ruie, one of the lower moons, and the ringleader of the spider demons on Mount Nagumo. Parents who can't protect their children don't deserve to live, Ruie said coldly, his gaze fixed on Aoki. This defector was indeed capable of killing demons. Boom! Large snowflakes swirled as two more demons descended from the sky. To Aoki's left stood a female demon with long, tied-back white hair and a cute but sinister face. To his right was a tall, muscular figure with a massive spider's head. These were Ruie's sister and father. Aoki ignored them, his eyes still on Ruie. This demon was a twisted individual. Demons typically didn't live in groups. According to Tamayo, this was because Muzan Kibutsuji feared they might band together and overthrow him. It sounded absurd, but given Kibutsuji's tyrannical nature, it was plausible. Yet, Ruie had been granted an exception. Kibutsuji had sympathized with Ruie due to their similar pasts. Both were born frail and sickly, often confined to bed. Kibutsuji's special care for Ruie was evident. After becoming a demon, Ruie had killed his own parents and sought to create a false family to fill the void in his heart. Unable to comprehend human emotions, he maintained his family through fear and strength. Anyone who disobeyed him faced severe punishment, often being exposed to the sun to die painfully. As he grew stronger, Ruie's human memories faded, leaving him even more hollow. Pathetic, pitiful, hateful, and absurd, this encapsulated the essence of most demons. Of course, with the exception of Muzan Kibutsuji. Before we begin, I have a question, Aoki said. What happened to Lower 6 and Lower 4? They failed and were executed by Lord. Ruie's voice was icy. Aoki frowned slightly. Kibutsuji's cruelty was unrelenting. He wasn't concerned about the fate of the demons themselves, but the absence of two significant threats made his mission more complicated. Has Kibutsuji appointed new Lower 6 and Lower 4? Aoki inquired further. How dare you speak of Lord by name? Ruie roared, his voice laced with fury. He swung his arms, and 5 transparent threads slashed through the air, creating a sharp whistling sound. Such trivial tricks won't work, Aoki said, his expression unmoved. He swept his arm in a broad arc. Boom! The threads snapped. You've grown stronger, I see. Show me what you can do, Ruie sneered, his fingertips oozing blood that seeped into the threads, turning them crimson. Don't harm my family. The demon father roared, charging at Aoki. Get lost! Aoki snapped, delivering a powerful kick. The demon father raised his arm to block, but Aoki's leg struck his neck, sending him sprawling through the snow. What an opportunity! The demon sister's eyes gleamed as she raised her palm to cast a web. But then she froze. Aoki's golden, vertical pupils locked onto her, radiating a cold, murderous intent. Before she could react, a fist filled her vision, growing rapidly larger. Boom! Her head exploded in a shower of blood and flesh. Clearing out the weaker enemies before facing the boss was standard practice. Aoki's gaze was ice cold, and his hands moved like blades. Swish, swish, swish. The demon sister's body was shredded into pieces, scattering across the ground in a heap. At that moment, countless red spider threads materialized, surrounding Aoki from all sides. Ruie wove the spider silk into a web with his hands and looked at Aoki with detached indifference. Blood demon art, killing web cage. Aoki Ryu, storm. Aoki became a whirlwind of destruction, tearing through the blood-infused web with brutal force. His fists were torn and bloody, his body covered in bruises. But within moments, his wounds healed completely. Ruie's eyes narrowed with alarm. This defector had grown incredibly powerful. Ruie slashed his hands through the air, and 10 blood-red threads crisscrossed towards Aoki. Aoki grinned fiercely, reaching out to grab them. Snap! His left hand was severed instantly, and his right hand was sliced in half. But he managed to clutch 2 of the threads tightly. Not good. Ruie's face twisted with fear. Before he could react, Aoki yanked hard on the threads, pulling Ruie off balance and hurtling him towards Aoki. Aoki bent his knees, the snow beneath his feet exploding as he launched himself into the air. In an instant, the distance between them vanished. Ruie flicked his fingers, rapidly spinning another web to defend himself. Aoki ignored the web, his body coiled like a spring, and his fists shot upwards like cannonballs. Boom! Half of Ruie's head exploded, spraying blood as he was sent flying. Aoki landed lightly atop a tree, crouched, then kicked off and propelled himself towards Ruie again. Ruie flailed in mid-air, struggling to regain his balance. He flicked his fingers desperately, sending more blood-soaked threads to pull himself back. Aoki leaped off a strand of spider silk, using its elasticity to launch himself back at Ruie. This time, the roles were reversed. Aoki was above, and Ruie was below. Aokiryu, Death Calamity. Aoki's punch was like a hammer, bearing down with relentless force. Death Calamity was a technique that adapted to the opponent's movements, becoming stronger with each successive blow. Ruie was no stranger to combat. Despite his reliance on his spider silk, he was a formidable fighter up close. They clashed fiercely, but Aoki soon gained the upper hand, his relentless assault breaking through Ruie's defenses. With each hit, Aoki's attacks grew more powerful, culminating in a switch to his storm technique. Boom, boom, boom. In rapid succession, Ruie's body was battered and torn, blood spraying and staining the snow red. As they plummeted towards the ground, Aoki prepared to deliver the final blow. But a shadow darted in from the side. "Don't hurt my family!" The demon father roared, slamming into Aoki and sending him sprawling. Seizing the moment, Ruie pulled himself free, gathering his blood threads into a massive vortex-shaped cocoon. "Get out of my way!" Aoki snarled, breaking free from the demon father's grip. He grabbed the demon father's head but hesitated, his eyes flicking towards Ruie. Ruie's hair was disheveled, and his single visible eye, engraved with the words Lower 5, blazed with fury. Since becoming a demon, he had never been so humiliated. Blood Demon Art, engraved line rotation. The vortex-shaped cocoon exploded in a flurry of blood threads, like a macabre rainstorm. Aoki threw the demon father into the path of the threads. The demon father was pierced through and through, the blood threads continuing their deadly trajectory. Aoki braced himself, deflecting as many threads as he could, but several still found their mark, peppering his body with holes. For him, these were mere scratches. As the last of the blood threads dissipated, Aoki looked towards Ruie's previous position, but the demon was gone. Just like before. Chapter 32, First Meeting. Ruie controlled the spider silk, cutting away the flesh around the wound on his head. As he did so, the suppressed regenerative abilities kicked in, and the wound began to heal rapidly. "How is he so powerful?" Ruie muttered, his voice trembling with frustration and anger. The last time he faced Master Muzan, he had sworn to bring back the defector. But now, he found himself retreating, humiliated. He knew he was no weaker than the defector in raw strength. But this battle felt grossly unfair. His attacks seemed to bounce off the defector with little effect, while each blow he received from Aoki struck deeply, cutting through flesh and bone. How could he hope to win under such circumstances? "Where do you think you're going?" A calm voice floated into Ruie's ears. His face twisted in fury, and he instinctively swung his arms, sending 5 blood-colored silk threads slicing through the air. But the sound had been deceptive. He hadn't struck his target. Ruie halted, spinning around to see Aoki standing calmly ahead of him. His eyes widened in confusion and shock. "How did he get in front of me?" The sound was definitely behind. Aoki looked at Ruie's nearly healed wounds and shook his head slightly. He knew that the only way to counter the wounds inflicted by the demon devourer was to excise the surrounding flesh, allowing a demon's regenerative abilities to take effect again. When fighting a lower moon demon like Ruie, who had formidable recovery and physical strength, it was crucial to crush their resistance swiftly. Otherwise, even with the demon devourer, the battle could drag on endlessly. Aoki raised his hand, aiming at Ruie's head. "I thought you might be more entertaining, but seeing you try to run spoils the fun. I'll end this quickly." "End me in one breath? Such arrogance!" Ruie spat back, though he was secretly on high alert. Lord Muzan had mentioned that the defector possessed a blood demon technique that could significantly enhance his strength for short periods. Aoki smiled knowingly. Ruie's strength lay in his ability to manipulate spider silk for ranged attacks, but he was weak in close combat. The best strategy was to close the distance and engage him up close, which was Aoki's specialty. "Are you ready?" Aoki asked, then disappeared into thin air. Before Ruie could react, a powerful hand gripped his face. "Got you." Aoki's voice was smug, and he forced Ruie's head downward with tremendous force. Ruie's neck twisted grotesquely, his head nearly driven into his chest. "Get off me!" Ruie screamed, his fingers shooting out bloody threads. But Aoki vanished again. Ruie realized with a start, is this ability similar to the teleportation of the Infinity Castle? Understanding it was one thing, countering it was another. Swoosh! A sharp sound sliced through the air behind him, and Ruie felt a searing pain in his neck. His vision spun as his head detached from his body. Aokiryu, storm! Aoki didn't relent this time, and there was no one to save Ruie. As Ruie's head fell to the ground, his body was torn into pieces, and the writhing flesh at his severed ends struggled but failed to regenerate. Yet he clung to consciousness, attempting to sprout arms from his dismembered head. But before he could act, a heavy foot descended from above. Crunch! The dismembered body twitched once, then lay still, life draining from the severed pieces. Aoki didn't hesitate and absorbed Ruie using the Demon Devourer. "You have slain Lower Moon 5 and gained 600 experience points. Congratulations, you have leveled up. The rewards for defeating a Lower Moon are indeed generous." Aoki raised an eyebrow in surprise. Earlier, the Demon Father had given him 180 experience points and the other 3 demons had added another 209 points. In total, the Ruie family had provided 989 experience points. This did not even include the bonus from defeating a Lower Moon. As expected, hunting elite enemies was the best way to level up. Of the 2 free attribute points he earned, Aoki first added 1 point to his constitution to balance his attributes, and the other to his strength. He decided to save his free skill points for now. Name, Aoki. Strength, 14. Constitution, 13. Intelligence, 13. Agility, 13. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. Dash. White Walker. Quality. Level, LV7, 394/700. Skills, Demon Blood 3, Space Shuttle, Transparent World, Not Yet Learned, Devouring Demons. Quest, The End of the Lower Moon, 1/3. Free skill points, 2. Looking over his system panel, Aoki felt a wave of satisfaction. Just 300 more experience points and I can upgrade Demon Blood to level 4. Dash. Kane Koko paused and surveyed the mountain in front of her. "Is this Nagumo Mountain?" A crow perched on her shoulder, ruffled its feathers to shake off the snow, and nodded. "Yes. This is the place. Let's head up the mountain, then." Kane Koko turned to the members of the hidden squad and signaled them to follow her. Guided by the crow, they soon reached the site where Aoki had battled the spider demons. It seems the fight wasn't intense. The gap in strength between the sides must have been significant, Kane observed, noting the sparse battle scars that the snow hadn't yet concealed. "Found something. Over here." A member of the hidden squad called out, holding up a grotesque human-headed spider. Kane's face darkened. Ignoring its terrifying appearance, she examined it carefully. After a moment, she stood up, her expression grim. "It's treatable, but recovery will be difficult, and there's a high chance of lasting damage." The hidden squad member said nothing. To him, it was miraculous enough that Kane could even offer treatment. Master Koko's prowess and kindness, coupled with her exceptional medical skills, made her a revered figure in the Demon Slayer Corps. After directing them to tend to the wounded, Kane set off alone to search for the remaining demons. According to the crow, more than one demon inhabited the mountain. Moreover, it had witnessed a demon with golden eyes killing another demon during the battle, a sight that defied all logic for the Demon Slayer Corps. Typically, demons only died from sunlight or the Nichiren blades wielded by demon slayers. Kane moved swiftly, like a graceful butterfly weaving through the forest. Despite her speed, she found no further trace of demons. Then she stopped abruptly, her eyes falling on the chaotic scene before her. Trees were slashed deeply, the ground was pitted and torn, and the snow was stained with blood. Another battlefield, much fiercer than the last, Kane mused. Feeling a presence, she looked up sharply. High in the branches of a nearby tree stood a figure. Judging by its aura, it was unmistakably a demon. Aoki looked down at her, recognizing the familiar yet slightly different figure. The uniform, the haori, the similar hair ornaments and face. This wasn't the short girl from his memory, but a taller, more composed version. Is that Kane Koko? Aoki wondered to himself, feeling a pang of nostalgia. Her gentle presence was like a soothing balm. Aoki gave a slight nod to the girl, then activated his space shuttle ability, vanishing instantly from her sight. Chapter 33, Sisters' Night Talk. Dash. It's him, it's him, it's him. The black crow on Butterfly Kane's shoulder flapped its wings excitedly, jumping around and shouting at the top of its lungs. After the demon had vanished, Kane finally allowed herself to relax, her body easing from its tense posture. Though Kane cherished the idea of coexistence between humans and demons, she knew the harsh reality. Humans feared and detested demons, and demons saw humans as nothing more than prey. True harmony between the two was impossible. Yet, something about this demon was different. Kane's eyes sparkled with curiosity. The demon she had just encountered exuded no malice. According to the crow, this demon was hunting other demons and had even directed the crow to bring humans to safety. All signs indicated he was unlike any other demon she had encountered. Regretfully, he had disappeared before any conversation could take place. Kane explored Nagumo Mountain further but found no other demons or any trace of the golden-eyed demon she had seen. With nothing more to discover, she headed back to the butterfly estate. Dash. By the time Kane had tended to the injured, evening had fallen. The warm, familiar glow of the butterfly estate was a welcome sight. As she stepped out of the ward, she saw a familiar figure at the entrance. A tired but gentle smile crossed her face. Shinobu, you're back. Kane greeted her younger sister. Welcome home, sister. I heard you went on a mission last night. Shinobu asked, a hint of concern in her voice. Kane nodded, smiling. Yes, but it wasn't to kill demons. I went to rescue people. Shinobu accepted this without much surprise. The Butterfly Estate, which they ran, was a key medical facility for the Demon Slayer Corps, and rescuing the injured was part of their duty. But Kane, eager to share her unusual experience, continued, Shinobu, I met a very interesting demon during this mission. Shinobu's eyes widened. Sister, I thought you said you weren't hunting demons. Kane smiled mysteriously. I didn't kill him. Shinobu was even more astonished. She knew her sister's compassionate nature and her hope for a world where humans and demons could coexist. But Kane had always adhered strictly to her duty. This was the first time she had heard of Kane sparing a demon. Understanding Shinobu's surprise, Kane gently tapped her on the forehead with a smile. What are you thinking? I didn't let him go without reason. Dash. As night fell, the world outside was quickly engulfed in darkness. Inside the cozy estate, Kane and Shinobu sat on the bedside, each holding a cup of tea. It was indeed a very unusual demon, Kane said, recounting the events. She described how the demon had killed other demons, absorbed their essence, and even helped save humans, actions entirely uncharacteristic of any demon they knew. If you ever encounter him, Shinobu, be very careful. His presence is powerful, akin to that of the 12 Kizuki, Kane warned. A lower-ranked demon. Shinobu's tone was serious. Did he have any distinguishing features? Kane thought for a moment. He's tall, very handsome, and looks almost human. The most striking feature is his golden vertical pupils. Golden vertical pupils. Shinobu's hand paused mid-air, the teacup barely missing her lips. Kane immediately noticed her sister's reaction. What's wrong? Have you seen a demon like him before? Shinobu shook her head slowly. Not seen, but I've heard something that might be related. Curious, Kane leaned forward. Tell me. Shinobu took a deep breath and began, do you remember the mission I had recently? I went to investigate a case that turned out to be humans committing crimes under the guise of demons. During that investigation, I met a man named Mr. Aomura. At first, I suspected he might be a demon because of his peculiar behavior. She paused, gathering her thoughts. But after observing him going out during the day, I dismissed the idea. Kane listened intently, her expression thoughtful. There are two possibilities. 1. It's a mere coincidence, and Mr. Aomura has no connection to the demon with golden eyes. 2. He could be the very same demon I encountered, and somehow he has overcome the effects of sunlight. Shinobu's face grew serious. The implications were staggering. If he has indeed conquered the sun, it's a disaster. Our Nichiren blades are only effective because they absorb sunlight. If a demon no longer fears the sun, beheading them might not be enough to kill them anymore. Kane, sensing her sister's distress, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Don't worry too much, Shinobu. Even if Mr. Aomura is the demon I saw, he appears to be hostile to other demons and has shown no ill will towards humans. Shinobu was less optimistic. She recalled the massacre Mr. Aomura had orchestrated, killing hundreds of criminals in one night. While they were indeed wicked, his actions indicated a capacity for extreme violence. If he was a demon, the danger he posed would be immense. We need to inform the higher UPS about this, sister, Shinobu insisted. Kane nodded. I'll report the golden-eyed demon's presence to the core, and I'll share your findings about Mr. Aomura. We need to be vigilant, but we should also avoid unnecessary panic. Shinobu agreed, though her concern remained palpable. A demon that could withstand sunlight and possess such formidable strength and elusive abilities was a threat unlike any they had faced before. Let's hope it's just a coincidence, Kane added, trying to soothe her sister's worries. Even Kibutsuji Muzan himself hasn't overcome the sun. If a demon had managed such a feat, Muzan would likely be pursuing him relentlessly. So far, we've seen no sign of such an upheaval. Shinobu nodded, slightly reassured by Kane's reasoning. Reflecting on their discussion, Shinobu thought of her friend, Mitsurai Kenroji, who was training to master breathing techniques. Mitsurai's strength and talent suggested she might become a Hashira one day. How would she react to the news of Mr. Aomura being a demon? Mitsurai had joined the Demon Slayer Corps with a desire to protect others, inspired by the belief that even someone as powerful as Mr. Aomura could be a force for good. Shinobu desperately hoped it was all just a coincidence. The idea that Mr. Aomura, a figure Mitsurai admired, could be a demon was unsettling. Chapter 34, Sharing the Moon. Bang, bang, bang. Just like a typhoon passing through, the room was left in ruins. Shattered equipment and collapsed furniture lay in disarray. In the midst of this chaos stood Muzan Kibutsuji, his expression twisted in fury, his aura pulsating ominously. Defector. He spat out the word with venom, his rage echoing in the silence. One of his own had been slain by a defector. As Muzan's rage subsided, a cold, calculating look replaced his fury. From the final memories of Ruie, he had seen the unthinkable, a demon consuming another demon. This defector not only neutralized the regeneration ability of demons but also grew stronger by devouring them. Could this defector have found a way to overcome sunlight? As this chilling possibility dawned on him, Muzan's fury flared briefly before he mastered it once again. He turned and left the wrecked room, his resolve hardening. This was the first time he had encountered such a demon. The upper moons would be mobilized. The defector had to be captured or destroyed. Unaware of the turmoil he had caused in Muzan's ranks, Aoki trekked through the dense jungle. The night pressed in around him as he moved silently, conserving his strength. Traveling by space shuttle, his unique ability to traverse distances instantaneously, was something he avoided due to its high energy cost. Unless circumstances were dire, Aoki preferred to rely on his own 2 feet. His mind replayed the recent battle with Ruie. Without space shuttle, my current strength is barely enough to contend with a lower-ranked demon. But if I use space shuttle effectively, I can catch them off guard and quickly finish them off, Aoki mused. Though his power had grown, Aoki realized that having a Nichiren blade would have made dispatching demons more efficient. However, his goal wasn't merely to kill demons but to refine his own abilities and grow stronger. Aoki reviewed the fight meticulously, noting flaws in his technique, mistimed moves, imprecise strikes. These were issues that required continuous improvement through battle experience. By dawn, as the first rays of sunlight pierced the canopy, Aoki completed his introspection. Unlike typical demons, he didn't seek the shelter of shadows. Instead, he donned a wide-brimmed hat and continued his journey under the sun's gaze. Though demons didn't need sleep, Aoki still scouted for demon activity during the day and hunted by night. His growth had made encounters with lesser demons less fruitful, pushing him to seek stronger adversaries. A few days later, he arrived at the bustling city of Asakusa. The streets were alive, brightly lit even at night. Here at last, he murmured, taking in the scene. Finding the remaining lower-ranked demons in the sprawling metropolis of Tokyo would be a daunting task, akin to finding a needle in a haystack. His attempts to gather information had yielded little since demons were forbidden from congregating. Based on what Ruie had revealed, other demons like Kyogai might have been replaced, and their hideouts were known. Kyogai's lair, the drum house, was his next target, rumored to be south-southeast of Asakusa. As he navigated the lively streets, he considered his next steps. Since I'm here, I might as well visit Lady Tamayo. Aoki wandered through Asakusa's streets. The occasional passerby cast a curious glance his way, but he remained inconspicuous. Lady Tamayo and Yoshiro were his potential allies. Sharing a common enemy and similar circumstances, their alliance was natural, even if they were unaware of his existence. Yoshiro's blood demon art allowed for invisibility, making them hard to locate unless they wanted to be found. If I don't find Lady Tamayo first, perhaps I'll run into Muzan, he thought with a wry smile, turning onto a quieter street. Ahead, a noodle cart caught his eye. The vendor, a burly man, sat beside it, puffing on a cigarette. Noticing Aoki's gaze, the man looked up. "Fancy a bowl of udon?" he offered. Aoki shook his head politely. The vendor shrugged and returned to his cigarette. "Is there something special happening in Asakusa tonight?" Aoki asked casually. The vendor glanced at him as if he were daft. "New Year's is just around the corner, that's why it's so lively." Aoki blinked in surprise. "New Year's already? 3 days away." The vendor confirmed, tapping his cart with his pipe. "This is my last night out here. After tonight, I'm done till next year." Aoki nodded, lost in thought as he walked away. The idea of the new year stirred something deep within him. Though it didn't align with the New Year celebrations of his old life, it evoked memories. He still had people he cared about in this world. "I wonder how Takina and Sensei's wife are doing," he mused, glancing at the crescent moon hanging in the sky. In a warmly lit room far from Asakusa, Ruie and Takina sat opposite each other, a table laden with food between them. "Let's eat," they said in unison, clapping their hands together. "Takina, do you want to go to the temple fair with me tomorrow? We need to buy some things for New Year," Ruie suggested, her voice bright with excitement. Takina's eyes lit up. "Of course." Ruie continued, "The fair here is even better than the ones we used to go to." As Ruie described the bustling stalls and colorful sights, Takina's responses became more subdued. The room, filled with laughter a moment ago, grew quieter. "I saw some lovely shrimp today. We could buy some and make tempura," Ruie said, smiling. Takina's face lit up briefly. "Aoki loves shrimp." She trailed off, her chopsticks halting mid-air. Silence fell over the room. The warmth and cheer they had tried to force faded away. The new year is a time for reunion, but without Aoki, their family felt incomplete. Takina placed her chopsticks down and stared out the window. "I wonder what Aoki is doing. Why hasn't he come to see us for so long?" Ruie's gaze followed Takina's, both women looking out at the crescent moon in the sky. It mirrored the moon from the previous year, a time when Aoki was still healing from his injuries, unable to join in their celebrations. Chapter 35, Tamayo and Yoshiro. Aoki studied the system panel. He hadn't been idle on his way to Asakusa, rumors of demons or unusual disappearances had prompted his investigation. Yet, he had gained little. In this era, exchanging information is extremely difficult. News may not even travel beyond a single village, Aoki muttered to himself. A prosperous city like Asakusa shouldn't be devoid of demons, he reasoned. In the original series, after encountering Tanjiro, Muzan Kibutsuji quickly found 2 new subordinates. Could those 2 demons be here in Asakusa now? However, even if demons lurked in Asakusa, finding them wouldn't be easy. Hunting demons in a city posed different challenges compared to the countryside. Unlike Tanjiro, Aoki lacked the ability to detect demons from afar using his sense of smell. As Aoki wandered through Asakusa, time passed quietly. The night deepened, and the number of pedestrians dwindled. Turning a corner, he came face to face with 2 individuals. A young woman with a striking appearance, long black hair styled into a large, low bun, wore a dark purple kimono. Next to her stood a young man with short light green hair, also clad in a kimono. "What a coincidence," Aoki remarked, coming to a stop. Tamayo and Yoshiro. In the original series, both had made significant contributions in combating demons, particularly Muzan. Tamayo, in particular, played a crucial role. Her medicinal knowledge proved essential in defeating Muzan Kibutsuji. Aoki hadn't sought them out specifically, but their unexpected encounter intrigued him. Unlike Aoki's apparent delight, Tamayo and Yoshiro's expressions darkened upon seeing him, especially Yoshiro, whose visage turned notably grim. "Lady Tamayo, please leave first." He hurriedly took out a charm. "Wait a minute, Yoshiro," Tamayo said. Yoshiro couldn't calm down at all. Encountering a demon was their worst-case scenario, especially so close to the new year. Suddenly, Yoshiro found his hand empty. The charm had vanished into thin air. Aoki's figure appeared next to him. "Don't be alarmed, I mean you no harm." Yoshiro's expression changed drastically. He hadn't sensed the enemy's approach at all. "Lady Tamayo, leave quickly." With a look of determination on his face, he rushed towards Aoki. Tamayo grabbed his arm and spoke up, her voice raised slightly. "Stop it, Yoshiro." Yoshiro hesitated briefly before Yoshiro shook his head, his attitude firm. Yoshiro could only give up. Tamayo looked at Aoki and leaned slightly. "I'm sorry, sir, I apologize to you on behalf of Yoshiro." Aoki smiled. "You're welcome, Miss Tamayo, you have a great name that I have admired for a long time." Yoshiro also realized the problem at this time, but he was still vigilant and guarded Tamayo's side closely. Tamayo looked at Aoki with a slightly strange look in his eyes. "Sir, if I guess correctly, you..." She paused, and Aoki gave the answer directly. "That's right, I have gotten rid of the control of Kibutsuji Muzan. In fact, you may not have been in contact with other demons. I am quite famous among demons recently." Tamayo's eyes suddenly lit up when he heard Aoki say that name. Her greatest wish is to kill Muzan Kibutsuji. However, she is not good at fighting, and the same goes for Yoshiro. As a demon, it is not convenient for her to come into contact with the Demon Slayer squad. Although she always firmly believes that as long as the power of people with the same ambition is gathered together, Muzan will be able to be completely killed. However, for hundreds of years, she has not found even a companion except Yoshiro. Until now. Although they spoke less than 10 sentences in total, and although she didn't even know the gentleman's name, she was convinced that she had finally met an ally. And this seems to be an ally who is very good at fighting. Taking a deep breath, Tamayo regained her composure. "This is not the place to talk, please come with me." Aoki took it easy and walked forward, walking side by side with her. Yoshiro's face was full of reluctance, but he didn't say anything else. Passing through a wall, a beautiful 2-story building suddenly appeared in a place that was originally empty. Entering the room, the three of them sat opposite each other. Aoki was the first to speak. "Before we get down to business, I'll give you a gift first." After saying that, he looked at Yoshiro and ordered. "Go and bring 3 cups." Yoshiro looked at him in disbelief. "Yoshiro?" Tamayo said. "Yes. Lady Tamayo." Yoshiro glared at Aoki and went to get the cup honestly. Tamayo looked at Aoki and said apologetically. "Actually, that child didn't mean any harm." "I know." Aoki smiled. In fact, he was just teasing Yoshiro. Soon, Yoshiro returned with 3 cups. Aoki opened the demon wine gourd, filled 3 cups, and made a please gesture. "Try it." Tamayo picked up the cup and took a sip, her delicate body stiffening slightly. Yoshiro looked even more incredulous. Aoki had been paying attention to their expressions, and when he saw this scene, a smile suddenly appeared on his face. To humans, demon wine is no different from ordinary wine. Other demons are enemies, and he can't share it with them. The magic of demon wine has always been unknown. He is like a fisherman who caught a big fish but has no one to share it with. He has always felt a little regretful. Until today, he finally got what he wanted. "It's been a long time since I tasted the taste of wine." Tamayo sighed softly. She didn't like drinking when she was alive, but now she tasted all kinds of flavors. This is indeed a very precious gift. Aoki smiled and raised his glass. This time, even Yoshiro didn't make a fuss, and raised his glass with Miss Tamayo in response. Next, the 3 of them didn't speak, and tasted the demon wine silently until the glass was empty. The relationship between the 3 of them suddenly became much closer. Aoki said, "Let me introduce myself first. My name is Aoki. About 2 months ago, I met Muzan Kibutsuji and was turned into a demon by him. My name is Tamayo, and this child is Yoshiro, a demon created by me." Tamayo paused here, looked at Aoki's calm expression, and asked curiously. Mr. Aoki doesn't seem surprised at all. Aoki smiled. I said before that I had heard of Miss Tamayo for a long time, but it was not a compliment. Yoshiro was once seriously ill and dying, and he accepted Tamayo's experiment and became a demon and survived. You know, making demons is the patent of Muzan Kibutsuji. However, Miss Tamayo broke this law. Unfortunately, she tried many times for more than 200 years, and only Yoshiro succeeded in the end. But does this also mean that the secret of demons is not that clever? Tamayo can't crack it now, but technology will continue to advance, and medicine will develop accordingly. If it can't be done now, will there be a chance in the future? Aoki doesn't want to be a demon. Demons lack human desires and have lost this part of enjoyment. As time goes by, the lack of desires may also cause personality distortion and cognitive changes. But he doesn't want to give up the power of demons. If the secret of demons can be completely cracked, can the double method be found? Of course, he also understands that this is just an unrealistic dream at present. Demons are the product of accidental birth. Whether the secret can be cracked is completely unknown. Even if it can be cracked, it may take an extremely long time. Chapter 36, Cooperation. After both parties introduced themselves, the atmosphere in the room became more harmonious. Tamayo began to share details of her research with Aoki, discussing various experiments she had conducted since becoming a demon. Aoki reciprocated by detailing his recent encounters and battles with demons, including his strategies and newfound abilities. Suddenly, Tamayo's beautiful face showed a hint of hesitation. Mr. Aoki, you are now, Aoki looked at her expression and quickly caught on. Miss Tamayo, are you asking about cannibalism? Tamayo pursed her lips, her demeanor intellectual and gentle. After I became a demon, I fell into despair for a while and consumed many humans. However, through transformations of my body, I not only escaped Muzan Kibutsuji's control but also no longer need to consume humans. Now, I survive by drinking only a small amount of human blood. Yoshiro nodded in agreement, adding, I require even less blood than Tamayo. If you're willing, Mr. Aoki, I could try to help you. Tamayo offered tentatively. Aoki interrupted her, his voice firm. I don't consume humans. Tamayo looked surprised. You mean you have no desire for human flesh and blood? Yes, Aoki affirmed. I've never consumed humans and have no need to. Tamayo appeared intrigued. Mr. Aoki, does that mean you lack the typical urges of a demon? That's correct, Aoki nodded. Instead, I consume demons for sustenance. Consume demons? Even Yoshiro, who had been listening quietly, now looked up with keen interest. Don't believe it. Would you like to see for yourself? Aoki extended his palm, activating his demon-devouring ability towards Yoshiro. Yoshiro frowned and dodged his palm, feeling uncomfortable as it neared him. You're quite sensitive. Aoki remarked, impressed. Yoshiro, however, didn't appreciate the compliment. Tamayo pondered for a moment. Is this your blood demon art? Something like that, Aoki replied vaguely, deciding it best not to divulge too much about the system. Tamayo didn't press further but chuckled softly. Mr. Aoki, with this ability, you could become a significant threat to Muzan Kibutsuji. He's already taken notice, Aoki revealed. Just a few days ago, I eliminated Lower Moon 5. Interestingly, his experiences mirrored Muzan Kibutsuji's, so Muzan has taken special interest in him. I imagine Muzan Kibutsuji must be quite furious right now. Tamayo and Aoki exchanged knowing glances, sharing a silent moment of satisfaction. The more agitated Muzan Kibutsuji became, the happier they felt. Yoshiro clenched his teeth, visibly uncomfortable with their shared amusement. Aoki's expression turned serious. Miss Tamayo, I hope we can forge an alliance and aid each other in dealing with Muzan Kibutsuji. I couldn't ask for more, Tamayo replied earnestly. It's a shame we can't contact the Demon Slayer Corps. If we could unite with them, our chances of defeating Muzan Kibutsuji would greatly increase. Aoki remained silent. The current Demon Slayer Corps, especially the Hashira, harbored intense animosity towards demons. In the original series, Tamayo and Yoshiro had cooperated with the Demon Slayer Corps due to Nezuko's precedent and under dire circumstances, setting aside their differences. However, the present situation wasn't conducive to such cooperation. Aoki had no intention of chasing after cold receptions. He saw no reason to engage with the Demon Slayer Corps. Miss Tamayo, I understand you are skilled in medicine, Aoki said, steering the conversation. I hope you can develop a drug capable of inhibiting Muzan Kibutsuji's ability to regenerate and escape. This was the primary goal behind Aoki seeking out Tamayo. The greatest challenge in defeating Muzan Kibutsuji was his ability to split and flee, a tactic that had thwarted even the legendary Yoriichi Tsujikuni. In the original series, it was Tamayo and Koko Shinobu who, through collaborative research, developed drugs that played a pivotal role in suppressing Muzan Kibutsuji's regeneration and eventual defeat. Actually, I've been researching similar methods for years, Tamayo revealed. Not only to counter his regeneration but also to weaken him with various poisons. However, due to the scarcity of Muzan Kibutsuji's blood, progress has been limited. I'll find a way to procure the blood, Aoki declared without hesitation. Tamayo's face brightened with joy. Having a formidable ally certainly had its perks. However, her smile faded as she spoke cautiously, Mr. Aoki, Muzan Kibutsuji is exceptionally resilient. Given enough time, he can metabolize any poison. It's impossible to kill him with poison alone. Aoki remained composed. Miss Tamayo, focus on the medicine. Leave the rest to me. Tamayo regarded him thoughtfully, a gentle smile touching her lips. All right. I trust you, Mr. Aoki. Aoki recalled something and inquired, is Muzan Kibutsuji currently in Asakusa? Tamayo nodded slowly. Yes. From what I know, he maintains multiple identities and spends more than half of his time here in Asakusa. Is it safe for you to be so close to him? Aoki frowned. Though Tamayo and Yoshiro had managed to remain safe thus far in the original series, Aoki harbored doubts. Now that Tamayo was crucial to his plans to defeat Muzan Kibutsuji, any misstep could prove fatal. In truth, staying near Muzan Kibutsuji has been an opportunity for me to find a way to end him, Tamayo confessed, her expression conflicted. Now, with your help, Mr. Aoki, I believe we no longer need to take such risks. We should consider relocating to a safer place in the near future. That's for the best, Aoki agreed with a nod. The two continued to converse throughout the night. Tamayo, with centuries of experience, exuded an air of gentle wisdom and elegance. Aoki, hailing from an era of information explosion, offered a perspective that transcended time and possessed a vision equally as profound as Tamayo's. Most importantly, their shared identities as demons and their mutual objectives fostered a natural sense of camaraderie. At Tamayo's invitation, Aoki decided to stay temporarily, intending to depart after the new year. Despite his physical stamina, the mental exhaustion from his recent endeavors warranted a brief respite. Chapter 37, Kyugai, a new lower moon. 5 days later. Crash. Clear wine flowed from the mouth of the gourd into the exquisite porcelain bottle. Remember to drink it within 12 hours, or it will turn into ordinary wine, Aoki reminded. After stowing away the demon wine gourd, the demon wine would expire after 12 hours. 12 hours? Got it. Yoshiro nodded. Aoki put away the demon wine gourd and turned to look at them. I'll be leaving now. Please, stay safe, Tamayo said with a slight bow. Yoshiro, with a serious expression, added, don't get yourself killed, I still want more of that wine. Don't worry. Aoki waved dismissively and headed outside. He pondered whether to inform Tamayo about the blue spider lily. Tamayo was undoubtedly one of the best doctors in the world, capable of studying the blue spider lily and creating medicines. But, after careful consideration, he decided against it. First, Tamayo was focused on studying the poison to weaken Kibutsuji Muzan. More importantly, he didn't currently possess the blue spider lily. The streets of Asakusa were deserted, with most shops closed. Next, we could try finding Tanjiro's family, Aoki thought. Not only was the blue spider lily significant, but Tanjiro's blood also held potential. As a demon, Tanjiro showed more promise than even Muzan Kibutsuji. While Muzan had sought a way to withstand sunlight for millennia, Tanjiro, after becoming a demon, overcame the sun's effects almost instantly. Leaving Asakusa behind, Aoki headed south-southeast. In the dimly lit room, candle light flickered, casting numerous shadows. Etsu Yijing peeked out from under the quilt, tucking in his younger siblings. Mom, aren't you going to sleep? Etsu, go to bed. I need to mend this dress first, Masako Yijing replied, blowing on her cold fingers. It had been particularly chilly lately, especially at night. With work during the day, household chores had to wait until night. If delayed, the children might go hungry. Let me help, Mom. Etsu offered eagerly. No need, just rest, Etsu, Masako said, smiling gently as she rubbed his little head. The children were so sensible. In 2 years, it wouldn't be as hard as it was now. Suddenly, Etsu's face turned pale, and he looked at the window in horror. Masako turned back instinctively. Crash! The window shattered, and a huge hand reached inside, grabbing Masako Yajing. No! It's a demon! Masako screamed, recognizing the arm's owner, her face filled with despair. She knew this demon. Months ago, her husband had died protecting them from this very demon. Now it had returned. Mom! Etsu hurriedly climbed out of bed. Masako burst into tears and shouted, Etsu, protect your brothers and sisters. She knew how terrifying this demon was. It was beyond human capability to fight. She was certain she would die. The only relief was that the demon had only grabbed her, sparing her children for now. Etsu hugged his younger siblings, who had woken in fright, and huddled in the corner, his face full of confusion and fear. Boom, boom, boom. Under the moonlight, a tall figure ran wildly. 6 drums were embedded in his body, and he carried a human on each shoulder. Kyagai's face was filled with impatience. Go back. Return quickly. I can start eating when I get back. He had been in an excited mood recently. He had met the man by chance not long ago and had been promoted to the 12 Kizuki. I am one of the 12 Kizuki, the strongest among demons. I am. Kyagai muttered, trying to dispel the worry gnawing at him. Lately, he noticed his strength wasn't increasing as much after consuming humans. This frightened him, it was a sign his potential was nearly exhausted. If he couldn't grow stronger, he feared losing his rank among the 12 Kizuki. No. That can't happen. Kyagai exhaled 2 streams of hot air from his nostrils. He couldn't allow that to happen. He needed to eat more people, become stronger. Kyagai quickened his pace. He preferred bringing prey back home to eat. He felt safest and strongest in his own home. He even tried to keep his prey alive as long as possible, he believed fresh food made him stronger. After passing through a jungle, a building suddenly appeared before him. The surroundings were overgrown with weeds, neglected for a long time. However, the path to the door showed frequent use. I'm here! Kyagai exclaimed excitedly, striding forward. He entered the house, tossing the living aside, and picked up the dying one, opening his mouth wide. Crunch! Masako covered her mouth tightly, tears streaming down her face, her body shaking with fear. Got eaten. Will I end up like this too? It's so scary. What will happen to my children if I die? The eldest, Etsu, is only 10. Can they survive on their own? The thought gave Masako a strong will to survive. Her legs, no longer weak, found strength. She scrambled towards the window. But after a few steps, a large hand suddenly reached out, grabbing her head. Kyagai lifted Masako off the ground, fury blazing in his eyes. Trying to run away? Then I'll eat you first. He dropped the severed thigh he was holding and gripped Masako's neck, ready to tear her head off. In the next instant, his hand was empty, and his prey vanished. Masako stared in shock at the young man who had appeared out of nowhere. Her mind was blank, with only one thought repeating, I'm not dead. I'm not dead. The stranger, Aoki, glanced at her. Can you still move? Snapping back to reality, Masako nodded quickly. Yes, yes. Aoki pointed to a corner of the room. Go over there and stay low. I don't want you getting hurt. Okay, I will. She replied, scurrying to the corner without hesitation. Just as she reached it, she turned back to warn him, be careful, it's a demon. Masako couldn't see what was happening, but Kyagai, now glaring at Aoki, recognized the intruder. You! Why did you break into my house? That's my prey. Aoki noticed the character lower 6 glowing in Kyagai's eyes and smiled with satisfaction. I'm quite fortunate, Aoki remarked. I only came here on a hunch, but it seems you've advanced to the 6th rank of the lower moon. Chapter 38, Advanced Space Shuttle. Aoki's words only fueled Kyagai's rage. Why? Why did you do this to me? Damn you! You deserve to die. I'm going to kill you. Aoki stared back at Kyugai and bluntly remarked, why are you so weak? Kyugai's eyes turned crimson instantly. Being looked down upon had always been his sore spot, and becoming a demon was his Achilles heel. I'm not saying your strength is truly lacking, but it hasn't reached the standard of the lower Moon 6. Aoki's explanation only made things worse. Kyugai's expression soured. I know who you are, you're a defector. If I kill you, maybe I won't be removed from the list by that elder. Perhaps I can gain more blood, become stronger, and rise in rank. Kyugai lunged forward, his arm raised. Shangsu drum strike. He unleashed his full force. Boom. Kyugai struck his chest drum first, sending 5 claw-shaped attacks slashing towards Aoki like deadly blades. Boom. Almost simultaneously, he struck the drums on his right shoulder and left leg, shaking the room violently. Masako, hiding in the corner, watched in shock as she found herself airborne for no apparent reason. Aoki lost his balance and fell, the claw attacks shadowing him. Despite this, he remained composed. Space-type blood demon art, Aoki muttered, noting it was the first he encountered besides his own space shuttle. It was versatile, combining attack, control, and evasion, a fascinating skill. Perhaps this was why Muzan Kibutsuji promoted Kyugai to lower Moon 6. Collecting his thoughts, Aoki suddenly vanished. Hey? Where did he go? Before Kyugai could react, darkness enveloped him. Aoki style, death. Aoki struck, severing Kyugai's right arm, which flew off with drum attached. Kyugai grimaced, attempting to strike his chest drum, but Aoki intercepted, smashing his elbow. Crack! His left arm shattered. Normally minor injuries would heal back instantly, but not no. Boom! 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 Aoki struck repeatedly. Precise and fluid. Kyugai seemed to cooperative, unwilling, presenting his head and limbs for blow. Boom! Kyugai head exploded, defense shattered. Aoki changed tactics. Aoki style Strom. His seamless attack transitioned into a violent onslaught. Boom! Kyugai fragmented body slammed against the wall, then crashed into the floor, rolling to stop. Vital joints and muscles were mangled, suppressing his regeneration. Kyugai lay twitching on the floor, unable to move. Aoki approached, his gaze steady. Blood demon art is intriguing, he remarked, but it lacks versatility in close combat. He extended his hand over Kyugai's broken body, and Kyugai's form began to twist and distort, gradually being absorbed into an invisible vortex. Lower 6 defeated. Plus 150 experience points. Congratulations on your level up. Only 150 experience points. Aoki mused. Then, he paused, reflecting deeply. Closing his eyes, he activated his space shuttle ability. Instead of his usual precise movements, Aoki found himself flipping upside down, crashing heavily to the floor. The impact startled Masako, who watched with concern. Sir, are you all right? She asked, edging closer. I'm fine, Aoki reassured her, waving her off as he rose to his feet. His eyes gleamed with understanding. So, that's how it works. He had discovered a new dimension to his power. Devouring demons didn't just provide energy, it could enhance his abilities. Before, he thought it merely boosted his attributes. Now, he realized it could strengthen his blood demon arts, such as Space Shuttle. After absorbing Kyugai, Space Shuttle gained a new feature, the ability to adjust spatial orientation without needing visual cues. This pointed to a path for growth, augmenting his blood demon arts by consuming demons with unique abilities. Too bad there are so few demons with space-type blood demon arts, Aoki pondered, thinking of Nagumo, the mistress of the Infinity Castle. Unfortunately, the Infinity Castle lay in another realm, only accessible with Muzan Kibutsuji's permission. Even if invited, Aoki would refuse. Muzan's domain was a perilous place, even for powerful demons like him. Pushing aside these thoughts, Aoki turned to Masako. Are you hurt? He asked, his voice gentle. Masako shook her head, her gratitude evident. No, thanks to you, I'm safe. Aoki glanced out the window. It's nearly dawn. You'll be safe here for now. Leave after sunrise. This drum house belonged to Kyugai, and it was unlikely other demons would be nearby. Masako nodded. Thank you. What about him? She gestured to Kyugai's lifeless body. He probably has money. Take it. And there may be more bodies in this house with valuables. Masako's relief and gratitude were palpable. She had narrowly escaped death, but her life remained filled with challenges, a damaged home, ruined clothes, and the uncertainty of survival without work for the day. Aoki stood, preparing to leave. When you get back, plant wisteria or burn wisteria incense. It will help keep demons away. Please, may I know your name? I want to pray for you, Masako requested earnestly. No need, Aoki replied, shaking his head. He then vanished into the night without another word. Masako bowed deeply in the direction he had gone. May your path be blessed. Determined to rebuild, she searched the house and found 2 more bags of money, enough to support her family through the tough times ahead. As the sky lightened, she hurried home, arriving near noon. Etsu. Mom. Her son, Etsu, dropped the firewood he was carrying, staring at her in disbelief. Masako enveloped him in a tight embrace. Mom! Etsu cried, tears streaming down his face as he clung to her. Chapter 39, 4 Skill. Aoki wore his bamboo hat as he strolled along the country road, letting the sun warm his face. He had discovered another benefit of his demon-devouring ability. While it was a pleasant surprise that Space Shuttle had received a slight enhancement, other aspects were less impressive. Only 150 experience points? That's a joke for a lower moon demon. Aoki muttered, shaking his head as he glanced at the system prompt. Kyagai held the title of lower moon but lacked the strength that usually came with it. Fortunately, Aoki had hunted several demons on his journey to the drum house. These encounters had allowed him to level up, despite Kyagai's disappointing yield. Even though Kyagai was a weak lower moon, the system still acknowledged his title. Name, Aoki. Strength, 14. Constitution, 13. Intelligence, 13. Agility, 13. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. Free attribute points, 2. White Walker. Quality. Level, 8, 54/800. Skills, Demon Blood 3, Space Shuttle, Transparent World, Not Yet Learned, Demon Devouring. Quest, The Last Days of the Lower Moon, 2/3. Free skill points, 3. Aoki allocated his 2 free attribute points to intelligence and agility. American Samoa was his custom, saving constitution for later. He looked down at his system panel, feeling a mix of pride and anticipation. From the time he had left Mount Fuji, he had traveled extensively and finally accumulated 3 skill points. Learn level 4 Demon Blood. He didn't hesitate. Demon Blood was the only skill currently available for an upgrade. All attributes +1. A surge of warmth coursed through his body, and Aoki felt a significant boost in his strength. Name, Aoki. Strength, 15. Constitution, 14. Intelligence, 15. Agility, 15. Occupation, Hunter, White Walker. White Walker. Quality. Level, 8, 800/24. Skills, Demon Blood 4, Space Shuttle, Transparent World, Not Yet Learned, Demon Devouring. Quest, The End of the Lower Moon, 3/2. With my average attributes nearing 15, I should be able to defeat Ruie without relying on the Space Shuttle, Aoki thought, nodding with satisfaction. The recent improvements to his 4 main stats had significantly increased his power since his last battle with Ruie, where each attribute point had made a visible difference in his combat effectiveness. However, his satisfaction was tempered by the realization that the requirements for upgrading Demon Blood had increased again. To reach level 5, he needed 4 skill points. The same was true for learning Transparent World. I can feel that my bloodline is nearing a limit. An improvement might push me into a new realm, perhaps granting me the ability to survive beheading. The idea thrilled Aoki. If he could survive decapitation and combine that with Space Shuttle, the Demon Slayer core would no longer pose a threat to him. Transparent World also held significant promise. If he could learn it, his strength would surely reach upper moon levels, even without further attribute increases. 4 + 4 = 8, 8 divided by 1 = 8, 88 is 64, 47 is 28. T/N. Aoki calculated the numbers in his head, his lips curling in a wry smile. Without additional tasks rewarding skill points, he would have to reach level 16 to acquire both skills. It felt like a long journey ahead. He had initially hoped that tasks could solve his skill point deficit. However, even the most challenging task he had undertaken, surviving death, had only rewarded him with 1 skill point. No other task had been as difficult or rewarding as the end of the lower moon. Aoki stared at the system panel in realization. Learning Space Shuttle 2. Sorry, not enough skill points. Learning Demon Devouring 2. Sorry, not enough skill points. He gasped. Can these skills be upgraded as well? It made sense. If Demon Blood could reach at least level 5, then other skills should have similar potential. Delving into the details, he finally understood their full capabilities. Level 2 Space Shuttle would allow him to create a space mark and teleport to it without distance restrictions, addressing the current limitation of short-range movement. But the real surprise came with Level 2 Demon Devouring. While Level 1 only boosted attributes, Level 2 not only enhanced his devouring ability but also granted skill points. This is how to solve the skill point shortage, Aoki realized with a sense of relief and excitement. In his battle with Ruie, he had noticed Demon Devouring was less effective against demons with strong regenerative abilities. Level 2 would not only increase its speed and range but also its damage, making it a formidable weapon against even the upper moons and Muzan Kibutsuji. However, the learning requirements for both Level 2 Demon Devouring and Space Shuttle were steep 4 skill points each. Upgrading all 4 of his skills would demand 16 skill points in total. Aoki took a deep breath. With limited resources, he needed to prioritize, and Demon Devouring 2 was the clear choice. Skills that provided additional growth benefits were best learned early. Enhancing Demon Devouring would also increase his efficiency in killing demons, bringing more rapid gains. Yet, even to learn Demon Devouring 2, he required 4 skill points. Normally, this would mean leveling up to 12. It's not that far off. If I can find another lower moon, assuming it's not another weak one like Kyugai, the experience from defeating it, plus the quest reward, could boost me 2 levels, to level 10. From there, reaching level 11 and then 12 wouldn't be far. Aoki chuckled dryly, knowing that relying on such good fortune was optimistic at best. The first step, finding another lower moon demon, was daunting. With only a few lower moons remaining and the vast world to search, tracking them down would be a formidable challenge. Each decision and each battle brought Aoki closer to his goal. He knew that perseverance and strategic thinking were his best allies. Chapter 40, Trap. In a dark alley, 2 drunken men cornered a young woman with a delicate appearance, pale face, and cold eyes. "Hey, beautiful, why don't you come and play with us?" One of the men slurred, raising a hand to touch her face. Poof! The man's arm was severed cleanly, and blood splattered onto his companion's face. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" He screamed, but his cries were cut short. A swift, cold light flashed through the air. Both men clutched their throats, terror etched on their faces as they collapsed to the ground. Muzan walked past their lifeless bodies, expressionless. Kyugai was dead, devoured by a defector. The 4th lower moon had not been replaced yet, and with the deaths of the 5th and 6th lower moons, half of the lower moons were now gone. Since the 12 Kizuki's inception, there had never been such a catastrophic loss. Demon slayers occasionally killed lower moons, but never at this scale. How did this defector manage it? Muzan mused. He found 2 lower moons one after another. Is he hunting them deliberately? Could he be getting stronger by devouring them, just as demons grow by consuming humans? A sinister glint flickered in his eyes. Let's give him a chance. After killing Kyugai, Aoki found himself without a specific target. Yet, he did not slacken his efforts. If anything, he was more driven than ever. 4 powerful skills lay within his reach, waiting to be mastered. They dangled before him like carrots before a donkey, fueling his determination. Aoki became relentless, moving from town to town by day to gather information and hunting demons by night. His dedication surpassed even that of the Demon Slayer Corps. As winter turned to spring, Aoki found himself in a bustling city, not as grand as Asakusa but still thriving. He preferred rural areas or mountain towns, where the chances of encountering demons were higher and detection easier. But rumors of hauntings in this city had drawn him in. "Boss, can you fill this up?" Aoki handed his wine gourd to the shopkeeper. While waiting, he casually asked, "I've heard this place is haunted. The shopkeeper's face tightened, and he nodded grimly. Yes, over a dozen people have been killed this month alone. Seriously? Aoki feigned surprise, though inside, his interest was piqued. The shopkeeper filled the gourd and handed it back. They say the man-eating demon has words engraved in its eyes. If you see someone like that, you should run as fast as you can. Aoki paused. Words in its eyes? What words? The shopkeeper scratched his head. I think it's lower 3. But it's just rumors. I'm not sure of the details. Lower 3. Aoki's mind raced. Could it be the third lower moon? Have I finally gotten lucky? Something felt off. With the strength of a lower moon, how could it be seen while killing? How could any witnesses survive? Despite his doubts, Aoki decided to investigate. It was his first promising lead since becoming a White Walker. Both Ruie and Kyugai had been tracked down using knowledge from his previous life. Night fell. Aoki sat on the roof of a 2-story building, sipping his wine and waiting. In Asakusa, he had learned the difficulty of finding a demon in a big city. This time, he chose a different tactic, waiting for the demon to come to him. From his daytime inquiries, he knew the demon suspected to be the third lower moon was brazen, causing a commotion every time it appeared, as if wanting to be noticed. With his limited perception, Aoki couldn't cover the whole city, but he was patient. He could wait for the right moment. The first night was quiet. On the second night, the demon appeared but not in Aoki's vicinity, and he missed it again. Still, he remained patient. As an experienced hunter, he knew that patience was crucial. While Aoki waited, others grew anxious. In a forest outside the city, Binjai, hidden in the shadows, muttered, "It's been over a month. Will the defector really show up? We don't even know where he is. Isn't this a waste of time? What if we attract the demon slayers instead?" Receiving no response, he glanced nervously towards another figure. Lord Akaza. Akaza's cold gaze met his. Your job is to follow Lord Muzan's orders. Don't ask questions. And if the demon slayer corps shows up, deal with them. Chilled by Akaza's murderous glare, Binjai quickly lowered his head. Yes, understood. I'm only concerned about wasting your time. Initially, Binjai had resented Akaza, but after a single encounter, his defiance vanished. Akaza returned to contemplating a martial arts dilemma, confident that continued practice would eventually lead him to the supreme realm. As night fell again, Binjai moved toward the city, following his usual routine. Despite his irritation at being confined, he enjoyed his nightly hunts. His only restriction was avoiding female victims, a taboo imposed by Akaza. Otherwise, he wasn't picky. Who should I eat tonight? I've had adults recently. Maybe I'll change it up. His eyes gleamed with bloodlust as he quickened his pace. Akaza shadowed him from a distance, tasked with eliminating the defector if he appeared. Unbeknownst to them, 2 other lower moons were also drawing out the defector, each shadowed by the 2 most powerful upper moons. The plan was simple: bait the defector and strike with overwhelming force. Lord Muzan believes the defector's strength surpasses the lower moons. He better not disappoint, Akaza thought, his eyes burning with anticipation. He thrived on combat with the strong, and the prospect of a worthy opponent excited him. As Aoki and the demons moved closer to their inevitable confrontation, the stage was set for a clash that would determine the fate of many. Each side was prepared, driven by their own motivations and desires, unaware of the unfolding chaos that would soon engulf them all.
Thanks for listening.